Okay, you happy? Okay, good, thank you. Okay, welcome members of the public, all two of you. Nice to see you here. And welcome everybody else. Just as a matter of reference, we were supposed to go to a closed council meeting after the committee of the whole. We're going to defer that till after this regular council meeting. So this is the revised agenda of the regular council meeting of Tuesday, October the 11th, 2022. We acknowledge with gratitude that we live, work, and play on the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish people. Squamish Nation, whose people have been stewards of these lands and waters surrounding the Bylaw for many, many generations. So there's that. That's our award. The presentation of the Islands Trust Community Stewardship Award, we're going to postpone. And we're going to move on to the approval of the agenda, late items. Everybody have those? Okay, thank you. And is there anything in the agenda that somebody would like to add or have a look at, or
on the consent agenda? No.
On the approval of the agenda? No. And we will approve the agenda by consensus and move right into public comments. Sophie?
Don't have anyone registered for public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to consent agenda. Who would like to have some clarification on any items on the consent agenda? Sue Ellen, what number, please?
I'd like to pull 3.3,
Okay,
3.4,
yeah.
and 3.7.
Wow.
I'm sorry, but I'll be quick.
Sure. Well, you do this. Anybody else?
Yes.
Okay, Maureen.
I'd like to close 12.1. That's the letter to regarding RST.
Oh, you know the letters, sorry. I'm sorry.
And also 9.2, which is being added to the agenda. And I'd like to speak to that under my Metro Parks report. That's okay.
Okay. Report. Correspondence. And what was the other one, Maureen? Sorry, I missed that.
12.1.
Yeah, I got 12.1.
9.2.
9.2.
Okay.
It's in our. It's in the agenda package
Extra.
already.
Table pack.
It's in the on table. Here.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
So you're happy with that one?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And the recommendations, council approve the items as outlined in the October 11, 2022 consent agenda as amended. With that, I got Rob on the other side, all in favor. Aye, thank you, passes. And so we'll start right in at 3.3 with Sue Ellen.
Thank you. I see this is a report from Councillor Morse. Thank you, Councillor Morse. I was looking at the reviewed by on the bottom of page 25 of our agenda, or page 1 of the report. And I don't see any staff that have reviewed it. And I'm wondering if somebody can confirm, have staff reviewed, because this is changed to the bylaw. And I want to make sure that staff have had a chance to look at it. Can anybody confirm that staff have looked at 3.1 and 3.2?
Liam?
Oh, sorry, 3.3 and 3.4.
Liam, have you got any comment on that?
We had an initial discussion with Council Morse on this, and my understanding is that it is really, in part just name changing and updating of minor elements.
And
Okay.
I think Kristen looked at it as well.
I understand that it's just to bring it in line with the other water advisory committees, because this one, we inherited it from the GBRD and it had a sewer management commission label on it. So it's just sort of a name change so that they have the same advisory powers that a LAC has, as opposed to a management commission, which actually directs. So I understand that was
Okay,
the purpose.
because it's changes to bylaws, I would like to defer this to a future council meeting because staff hasn't had a chance to actually check over it, and I'm sure Councillor
I
Morse
think
is
we had
very thorough, but I,
Two members of staff that just okay.
And Sophie as our deputy corporate officer.
they talked about talking about it initially, but they haven't. There's no little staff have checked off those things in the bottom of the report. It hasn't been reviewed by staff. It's just here. And I don't feel comfortable. So I can't support it this way. I'd be happy to defer it. I don't see the rush. I would like staff to run a careful eye over it before it comes to council for changes in these bylaws. There's a bunch of bylaws here.
No, I make a motion and we'll see if we.
Okay, I move that items 3.3 and 3.4 be postponed until a council meeting in November. Until a future council meeting, because I don't know when they are.
Okay.
October.
Hey, do I have a second for that? Okay, I see.
I mean, I don't mind seconding it if you want, if you have specific concern, you want to sort of, what way, or is it just the process?
It's the process thing of one councillor putting things in front of us. I think that staff role is to check it all. Somebody should review it before it comes to us, because these are a bunch of bylaws. One of them in 3.3, and then a bunch of them in 3.4. So it's a process thing. I would just like to feel confident that staff have looked over it and made sure that it's all perfect.
Can I ask a question with the CEO of Liam?
Sure.
Liam, do you see any benefits to staff looking through this? And is there any time frame that we should be concerned about as far as delaying this?
There's no delay or no concerns with the delay, and I have little concerns with the amendments. And as we're going, we periodically come across these types of issues with the bylaws. I, just sort of discovered one today with the Recreation Commission bylaw, which was from 2013, which needs desperately to be updated. But I need to circle back with probably Councillor Morse and perhaps Councillor Fast or others to talk about that one. So no concern with the delay and no concern with the proposed amendments.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further Maureen?
I share Sue Ellen's concerns, and it's more about the bundling of so many bylaw changes at once without just a little bit more background. So, for example, if there had been a revision struck version, so I actually could see what the changes were and take some comfort in that. And I think that there is a substantive difference between calling a committee a management committee and calling it an advisory committee. And I know that we want to get to this point of calling the committee an advisory committee, but nonetheless, I just have a feeling of this is too much to just be put on a consent agenda at the end of our.
Oh, so I thought we were speaking about 3.3.
3.3 and 3.4.
Well, I didn't realize you had bundled them together. 3.4 is entirely a matter of changing. There's two bylaws that establish the same committee. So it's just a confusion item. No change to the substance of the committees, their duties, or anything else. But bylaw, each one of their establishment bylaws, when they were revised in 2009, there was one clause that was not removed, which if you read the 2009 report very clearly was intended to be removed. So that the establishment bylaws are just the establishment bylaws. Bylaw 258 establishes the water advisory committees, and there is no changes being made to that. All it's doing is we've got two bylaws that are establishing the same committee, so it's a confusion item. So It really, the advisory, all the water advisory committees members have all been advised of the changes, and the 2 members of the sewer committee have been advised of the changes. The sewer committee has been requesting this for quite a while, wanting to be an advisory committee. So this is their request, and there is a council resolution agreeing to do that. And it's been structured basically exactly the same as the way the Cove Bay Management Committee has been done. So it is not anything that's, well, I mean, there's nothing in
It's not paid in the stuff.
it's not, it is just getting rid of a duplication, nothing else. And 3.3 is removing all the sections to do with the duties and replacing them with basically the same wording as we gave the code advises.
So when you advise the water
I haven't seen
committees, there has been no feedback?
no feedback.
Or did you-
Couple of things. I sent those out first thing this morning. So I got feedback from saying thank you for the notification. So I'll just check my emails. So I haven't had any complaints. And as I say, this is something the sewer committee has been wanting. And there is the water ones is all it's doing is removing one reference to the committee establishment, which should have been removed in 2009. And I don't know why it didn't happen.
Well, so we have
Go ahead.
just, I wasn't looking through here, I wasn't able to find out what was that clause 2 that was removed. Remove clause 2, and I sort of saw the wording, but I couldn't check it. And now I'm hearing, sorry, that that the advisory board folks were all just, the volunteers just heard about it by email this morning, so we haven't got their eyes on it either. And I would just, if time is not a worry, it all seems like it could wait just for staff and any of the volunteers to take a look at it. That seems to be a process thing. That's why I like to.
Well, actually, I'll agree to it.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion on the table. Can you go again, please, Sophie, on that motion?
So I have, I'm not sure if I have confirmation of a seconder, but,
Yeah.
so it's that items 3.3 and 3.4 of the regular council meeting agenda be postponed.
We could make it October 24th, if that's what people would like, and I think it's supposed to be an exact date, right?
Okay, any further discussion on this?
I have no problem with 3.3 in as much as I remember distinctly this follows a special meeting. So I cannot exactly remember some weeks ago on this whole subject we covered it on.
Yeah.
It is in writing. So that certainly shouldn't come to as a surprise to anyone.
No.
And the other, the 3.44 is housekeeping in the true sense. And, I have no problem with that.
We also have confirmation from the CAO and the CFO that they've talked about this, and it's fine. It's just a print change is all it is. Anyway, that's but go ahead, Rob. We're still talking here.
Yeah. Liam, can you just confirm this is just plain housekeeping, language cleaning up, that's it?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. So did we got that reread?
Yes, so there hasn't been a vote yet.
Okay, no. And okay, I'll ask a question. Okay, all in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay, it fails. And does anybody, I'd like to just leave the recommendations as they are, and I will, let's go to 3.3 and I'll move that recommendation that the Snug Cove Sewer Specified Area Local Management Committee Purposes Establishment Bylaw number 10, 2000 Amendment Bylaw number 591/2022 be read a first, second, and third time. I will move that, and second to Michael, all in favor. Aye, opposed. Okay, Councillor Fax in opposition. Now the other
And
recommendation.
Nicholson,
Oh, sorry, Maureen, were you had your hand up? I didn't see it. Okay. And so 3.4, as written, I will move those recommendations. There's 5 of them. And second to you, and all in favor? 2, 3, 5, and opposed. Okay, Councillor Nicholson, and passed in opposition. And it does pass it. And so 3.7 now.
Yep, this was the ratification of our council resolution about the paving of Hikers Trail Road.
Yeah.
And I just had a quick question for the CAO. Having looked through the agenda at the emergency report, the minutes of the emergency program executive committee there down in 10.1. I just wanted to check by paving Hikers Trail. We're not proposing to open Bishop's Hill to regular traffic.
Hikers trails on the other
Oh,
side.
Hikers Trail is by the primary access to hand loggers, or I don't know the trail names on Mount Gardner.
Sorry, got my roads mixed up. I move that council ratify the following motion made by email poll on September 29th, 2022. Whereas the Bowen Island Trunk Road stormwater replacement project will complete under budget, and whereas there is an opportunity to use remaining budgeted funds to pave Hikers Trail Road, a road identified as a priority, therefore be it resolved that council award a paving contract to Monarch Paving to complete paving of Hikers Trail Road at a cost not to exceed $81,000 and plus GST.
Thank you, Cyril. Second. Okay, over to David. And any further discussion on this one?
Quick question for Liam. So this was, we did this on the 29th, we voted, and we're putting it in here now just to make it official. Was that the process?
That's correct. There was an email vote. There was
Yeah.
an opportunity to try to expedite the paving when we had Monarch Paving available
Yeah.
to do the work, and so now we're ratifying.
And we had the money from the savings of the other paving job.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And ultimately, this project will result in likely a savings because of the amount of time we're having to spend maintaining that road because of the wear and tear on the gravel.
The residents are pretty happy. I'm jealous because
I'm sure they are.
it's still.
Okay, thank you, Liam. Thanks, Rob. And I will ask a question if you've no further discussion on the.
Yeah.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. And, okay, we'll move out of there. And 3 point, sorry, no, we'll just move to the delegations. Amy Sheffer, Executive Director. She got that on the big screen. Would you put it in?
It's apparently on the agenda.
Sophia's.
Yeah, Jamie is on the Zoom, so she.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm here.
There you are.
Here I am. Did you want me to answer something?
No, I just want you to go ahead on your annual report to council.
If you're ready, I'm ready.
Oh, we're
Okay.
ready.
Cool. All right. I have to apologize. I just spent a week with my granddaughter and my voice is not great.
Sounds just fine.
It was worth all the hugs and kisses. So, okay, well, here we are. Are you, is it Sophie that's managing the slideshow?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Okay, and should I just say next?
Yeah, I can do that.
sure.
Okay, cool, thank you. Thanks.
We wait till Sophie gets going here.
Okay, all right. I have my presentation set up, so I can't see any of you.
Okay.
Do you want to share your screen, Jamie, or are you more comfortable?
I have notes to read, so I don't know that works in sharing my screen, but I think Sophie has a PDF of the slideshow.
I do, yeah.
Just let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Coming up there in a moment.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. I just lost mine. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So sorry about my voice. I
No
apologize.
problem. That's great.
She's a cute little 1.5-year-old. So, when they want to give you a hug and their nose is running,
Yeah.
you go for it. So this is a presentation on behalf of the Hearth Gallery, Arts on Bowen. We've been around for about 35 years. Next, Sophie. Just want to share our gratitude to the Bowen Island municipality for their support with the core community organizational funding. We're very grateful for the support that the municipality gives us. So on January 1st, we signed a 5-year agreement between the Hearth and BIM. You can see there the incremental increase over the years. And we really appreciate Liam, especially for pushing this forward and getting this signed. Tonight's presentation is an overview of operations, current plans, big dreams, goals for our year ahead. We'll have a look at the budget at the end of the presentation, but please ask any questions anytime throughout the presentation. So the Hearth believes that arts and culture nurtures means for shared dialogue and understanding, illuminates injustices, asks profound questions, and offers creative approaches to solve problems. We're integral to every aspect of society and essential for health and wellness, inclusivity, respect for all. And we are an economic driver that provides a sustainable approach to the development of our local economy and merit investments by the government and private sectors. We are the leading advisory body to BIM, guiding decisions and direction on arts and culture. We also have representation on the Public Art Advisory Committee, the Community Economic Development Committee. We're also part of the Community Center Select Steering Committee and the proposed Joint Ops Committee. So it was an easy transition between Jackie and Jamie. Jackie did all the hard work and I get to do the fun stuff. She definitely led an amazing path to forge everything forward for arts and culture on the island. And it was an easy friendship and transition between Jackie and I. So with the dream, with almost 20 years of experience as a director, curator, and a manager in my previous position in Invermere in the Columbia Valley, the plan to build on all the hard work that Jackie did before me, we continue with the hard work on revitalizing the Hearth Gallery as a cultural hub on Bowen. The dream, one of the big things I really wanted to work on was reinvigorating the gift shop and the gallery operations, celebrating art in all its forms. Art is not just 2D visual art, it's also live art, live music, performances, literary, film. It's unending. Art kind of covers the whole spectrum. We have community art shows like the Primary Colors Elementary School Show, the Mini Artworks, which is our major fundraiser for the year, Hidden Gems, and a variety of other art shows that we support in the gallery. I also wanted to review and amend staff and volunteer roles and functions, review current policies, refresh our fundraising events that needed a little updating, connect and listen to the community, review annual budgets, and work with BIM on the new community center. So current and past projects, sort of the more noteworthy, I guess, is the Gateway project that I worked on with the Public Art Committee, that beautiful mural that's by the ferry landing. I'm working with the Community Economic Development Committee, trying to set a plan up for the island. Bowen Island Community Center, of course, the Snug Cove Cultural Corner project, which I'm sure you've noticed, the Cultural Master Plan updates. We also have a new equity, diversity, and inclusion policy. And we have also a performing arts ad hoc committee that I'll speak about in a few minutes. I'll just break down some of these projects. The Gateway project, of course, you all know and have seen. We did actually spend some time this summer and wash and clean the mural and protected it against sort of anti-graffiti protection. So it's looking really great, and it'll have a good long life. The Community Economic Development Plan, we had a meeting this morning and we're working very hard on moving forward on that. Of course, the Community Center, with the dream becoming a reality, the Bowen Island Community Center is now on track to open in the late fall of 2022. An ad hoc committee formed within the Hearth Board of Directors and has agreed to support the dream of the performance-built space, working closely with the BIM Community Center team. The Snug Cove Cultural Corner project. I've learned to be patient this summer, something I'm really good at. But you should see some activity at the end of this week with the actual stage being worked on. So once completed, this exciting project will provide a shared outdoor space, inviting locals and visitors to experience art in all its forms. It is a natural gathering area, providing space for entertainment opportunities. This project includes a covered stage area with comfortable space for seating. It also includes several benches, accessible pathways around the Cove Commons, and low-level lighting for pedestrians moving between Cardina and Snug Cove. So the cultural master plan, this is something that came before me. So it's not something I'm overly familiar with. I've read it and I've talked to Jackie about it, but I'm still learning about the plan that was created and working hard on trying to learn more about it. So we are pleased to report substantial progress toward realizing many of the recommendations in the 2017 plan, most notably on the 4 items as part of the special projects. Yeah, it's an award-winning plan, and we reviewed and updated it this past summer. The things that we updated there's 4 main parts. The Younger Voices, which is planning events to engage and showcase the work of young artists, such as the Primary Colors Art Show and a planned high school art and music program. Celebrating Heritage, events to raise awareness of and celebrate First Nations heritage, and work such as the recent Nahalawam sign celebration are now included in each year of the Hearth's programs. Embracing diversity in all arts and cultural programs and activities, including personnel, membership, and programming activities. We recognize and work to empower marginalized groups, enable and encourage equity, diversity, and inclusivity. The audio-visual equipment, with a successful grant from the BC Arts Council, we are able to provide an opportunity to purchase. Provide options. Oh, am I still here?
Yeah, you're here.
Okay, good. Then we can provide live art options like audio presentations, visual art presentations, live art, and so much more. Funds for these projects have been appropriated for each of these projects in the Hearth budget. By updating the power wheel from the Bowen Island municipality, you might recognize it. We have revised it based on the arts. The current plans are to collaborate with other Bowen Island organizations working towards an equity, diversity, and inclusion culture in their organizations and or the whole community. Activities that support learning about an inclusive heritage of Bowen Island and ensuring that barriers to participate in arts and culture activities on Bowen are minimized or removed. We are just working on a current plan to offer an island-wide workshop. So an overview of the gallery shows for 2022. We've had a great season so far. There are over 14 shows this season so far. A real variety of mediums and styles, 3D and 2D art, as well as interactive art. we've had a great season, and people have come into the gallery and really enjoyed their time there, and have been part of the shows. Plans for the gallery season, for the 2023 gallery season, I think we broke the record this year with 35 submissions from visual and performing artists. We'll host another exciting and innovative year at the Hearth Gallery. So stay tuned for that. We're just working on that right now. We need a bigger gallery just by with 35 submissions. So stats and fun facts for 2022. It's been a busy year. The number of vendors in the gift shop have increased. It gives our local artisans, writers, poets, carvers, ceramics artists, painters, jewelers, the opportunity to sell their work at the community art gallery. As part of the cultural plan, we have been able to enhance income opportunities for artists by increasing the gift shop space and creating the December art market. We also initiated the Artists in Our Midst program to capture stories of local artists to help promote those who are more remote or don't have a space to sell their art. We met this summer with 2 other local galleries to break down any barriers of competition and create ways to work together more effectively and cooperatively. Here's some stats, fun stats. You can see that things are going well. So yeah, volunteers make the world go round. We have 11 board members, 8 people on our visual arts committee, 20 gallery hosts, which is amazing. The value of our volunteer hours of 5,000 hours is $120,000. Volunteer roles at the Hearth Gallery. We currently have a gift shop manager and a volunteer coordinator. These roles are paid a monthly honorarium. The Visual Arts Committee is a committee that supports what we do in the gallery. They also help choose the artists that are coming in for the following year. It's a quite a interesting committee, a real variety of folks from the island with a variety of interests, not all artists. Some are business owners, some are realtors. That gives us an opportunity to really have a look at what we're doing in the gallery and make sure that we're covering everything. We have 3 paid staff at this point. Myself, program coordinator is Kathleen Ainskoff, and then our cultural connector, Matilda Rohr. She's been with us through the summer and will stay with us right through to the spring. The curator role that became vacant when I arrived has been filled by myself. I have almost 20 years of curatorial experience, so it made sense for myself to curate and manage the gallery. These are friends of the Hearth. We have a lot of friends, including the Bowen Island municipality and all of you. Thank you. Donors and funding agencies were very well supported. So these are the financials. This is give you an idea of the budget for this year, this upcoming fiscal year, which started on July 1st. The 3 main funders for our grants is BIM, of course, thank you, and the BC Arts Council and the Gaming Grant. Here are some of our expenses. If you have any questions after this, please ask away. And that. So, question.
That's great. Thank you very much, Jamie.
Yeah.
Presentation. Any questions on the numbers here in the budget, or okay, I'll go to Rob and then Allison.
Yeah, Jamie, I just have a comment, and you can take it for what it's worth. I've spoken with Rob about this already, but you've brought up equity, diversity, and inclusion, the importance of everybody being welcome in the building, and art also is having sort of a bigger impact on the community, especially during rough times. The last event you mentioned, the show at the Hearth, I did not attend that event because I felt it was wrong that there was a pass fax requirement at the front door of that event. And I know there were there was at least one artist that came to me who donated arts to the hearth and wasn't even allowed to go in the show himself. And I've heard from a number of people as well that they didn't go because of that reason. So I just want to point that out, when we talk, inclusion and all these areas that we love to write reports on, it also needs to be brought into practice. And I don't know what was done to try to include people, but I know some people didn't feel included. I wasn't comfortable going to that event. And I just wanted to point that out as something that I hope that is front and center, that we don't just talk about it, but that we do our best to make sure we implement that. And just hearing that there's an artist that's donating a piece to the hearth for the foundation for money and can't even enter the building himself, it concerned me. So I just wanted to bring that up. And you don't need to respond to that, but it's just something I think that when we talk about these things, it's nice to talk about it, but it's the implementation for me that's key. And that's just what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify something, Rob? Well,
Sure.
Yeah.
I would love it if you would come into the gallery and talk to me about this so that we could, my question is this the event that we had in February?
I think it was, it probably was in February. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was around that time. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously at that time, everyone was having to wear masks, and it was a decision that the board made that people needed to be vaccinated to come into the gallery. Our volunteers were more vulnerable, so we were being very conscious of making sure that everyone was safe.
Yeah,
And we didn't turn anyone away. If there was someone that said that we did not. We actually invited one artist that was not vaccinated, but yes, he wasn't allowed to come to the final event because people needed to be vaccinated, and he understood that.
Yeah. And long story short, it did create I didn't feel comfortable going because of that, vaccinated or not. So I just wanted to point it out to you. That's all. So thanks.
Great, Rob,
And I'll
come
talk to you about it.
and talk to me. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob. I'm going to Allison first and then Maureen. Thank you.
I just was wondering about the changes to the cultural master plan. Was it actually changes to the plan, or was it changes to your work plan to implement the plan?
It was an addition, or it was in addition to the cultural master plan to focus on those 4 points.
So the plan that was approved by the municipal bylaw in 2017 no longer.
Oh no, it totally exists. This was something that was already in the master plan. We just elaborated on it, and recognized that those 4 points were very important, and that they were 4 points that we could work towards easily.
But you actually amended the wording of the.
No, it's an addendum, not an addendum. It's an addition. In addition.
To the cultural master plan.
Yes. So in other words, we're working towards the master plan, the cultural master plan, and we're sort of picking off items. And these were 4 items that we felt that were important.
Are you going to share the revised plan with council?
Sure. Absolutely. I can send that to you. Absolutely. Who should I send it to? Sophie?
Yeah.
It's just one page that has been added to the cultural master plan.
I'm
All right,
just
thank you.
thinking about process here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Allison, Maureen.
Thanks very much, Jamie, for your report. And I have to say, I have really enjoyed going to the show that you have put on over the past year. The variety has been amazing, and just thank you very much. The other comment I want to make is you had 20 guest hosts at the gallery. That's remarkable. How on earth did you get 20 guest hosts at a time when people are always saying volunteering is down? How did you pull it off?
We have an amazing volunteer coordinator, And we're an amazing organization. Who doesn't want to be in the gallery? Yeah, I think we just have positioned ourselves.
Okay, anybody else? Michael?
Jamie, good evening. I have to say I was stunned. I was in the gallery. I saw you there just a week or two ago with my wife, and the exhibition, the glass exhibition was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I looked at the financials, just as a matter of interest, Jamie, you've done one that takes your financials, that takes you up to the end of 2023.
Yes.
Internally, do you forecast a year or two beyond that, or are you just looking out 12 months financially?
We had to forecast another year forward for our BC Arts Council operations grant. But it didn't really change too much, Michael. It was sort of very similar in what you see here.
No, I'm not saying it's an easy task. No one likes to get the crystal ball out and then go 24 months beyond it. So you do actually know, as an internal discipline, you do actually do that. Probably not just for grant purposes, but for your own purposes. So
Yeah.
Beyond the next year.
Yes. Especially if we have some like a big fundraiser or a big event, and we sort of budget for that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, anybody else with any comments here? All right, Jimmy, we'll let you go and have a nice big talk, some lemonade or something.
Thank you. Thanks.
And thank you very much. That was a great presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, night. And we're going to move on to another delegation with our very own corporate lab, Cove. Is Staff Sergeant going to be on the Zoom here? Or are you all by yourself? I think I'm all up. Okay, come on, step right up. Good to see you, Adam. For having pleasure. I've got the same. Yeah.
Okay.
That looks like. It's like my truck. So traditionally, we would try and do this a little bit closer to April 1st, which is the beginning of our fiscal year, but a little bit behind this with schedules and everything. So this is our year-end presentation for 2021.
2021.
Yeah, 21.
2021.
Calendar.
So our fiscal year is March 31st to April 1st, or sorry, April 1st to March 31st. So about midway through our 2022 fiscal year.
Yes.
So within the last year or so, we've changed. We have a new inspector, Robert Dykstra. Sub-zone commander is still the same Staff Sergeant Gary Bradley. Sergeant Dan Pollock is our operations NCO. I'm Bowen. I am still here, obviously. Constable Robert Notari is here this summer. We got a new constable, Paul Town, very tall English gentleman. Seems like he's really enjoying this time here and he's fitting in quite well. So he's very happy. And Melanie is still here. She's been here forever. Without her, we would be very lost. We had an analyst run through some statistics. A lot of it is, I wish I'd been able to communicate with the analysts more. They're out of E division for the province, so I don't know actually who did it. I don't have a ton of information how they were compiled. So the piece that I took away from these crime stats are kind of the call volume per member of the RCMP per year. So we're a little bit below the average for the province. So a member in Surrey is averaging, they say, approximately 294 calls per year. Here we're about 257. So we're close. If anyone says that we don't do anything, we do. We are running around all the time. I found that very interesting to see how close we actually are. The Next stats were related to the number of founded police occurrences. That just means that these were reported as one thing and then it was found through the investigation that that was legitimate. It did decrease slightly from 2020 to 2021. I think it's similar to anything else. The decrease could be due to the pandemic and slightly less tourism, although that doesn't seem to be the case this summer. The summer was, it seemed like a lot of tourists and it doesn't seem to have decreased at all, waiting for the rain to come. I was trying to look into, as I said, I wish I'd been able to communicate with the analysts more because the increase in the violent crime is something that I can't equate. When I'm looking at our files and I'm browsing through them, I'm not sure if they were lumping in assaults and threats and a bunch of different offenses to that statistic. So I can't explain the increase in that because I don't know what it was. But it's not as though we have a rash of violent assaults in the Cove.
Shall we ask questions as we go along, or do you want us to?
Feel free to.
Yeah, just under the other offenses, I mean, that seems like one hell of a big number compared to everything else. What is in there?
Again, I'm not sure exactly what they added in. Some of the provincial statute offenses could be Fisheries Act offenses, that kind of stuff. Traffic offenses are obviously simple. The CDSA, that's drugs. Other criminal code offenses, I don't know exactly what they lumped in there. Property crime is break and enters and thefts, basically. So that was a decrease. And again, I'm not sure what was included in the person's violent crime.
The traffic one, so that would be all speeding tickets would all be in there.
Speeding tickets, impaired driving that's held under the Motor Vehicle Act.
It seems really low when we can for a whole year.
Down quite a bit.
I think it's those are offenses that someone was written a ticket for.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean that we're not out stopping cars.
no, I don't. Yeah.
And the other criminal code offenses also includes criminal code impaired. So
How about federal statute offenses?
yes. Again, that's stuff like Fisheries Act, Wildlife Act.
Okay.
Probably federal statutes that deal with federal law. That's
Okay,
in there.
great.
The next is similar. It's just the total number of those occurrences, not necessarily the founded ones. So this is the number of reported offenses
Oh, I see.
that wouldn't have necessarily been founded based on the investigation. The next relates to some of the mental health stats that we have just within the sea to sky. For me, this highlights a little bit of the logistical challenge around being on an island. So the percentage of our total number of calls in a year that are mental health specific is almost twice the average of the other two detachments in the sea to sky. But the number of apprehensions that we have is actually quite a bit lower. If you look at the second graph on the bottom part of the page, each of those detachments apprehends more people than we do. So because we don't have a hospital, because getting a patient from here to the mainland may be a bit challenging, we tend to lean on BC ambulance quite a bit and find alternative methods. But every time we have to apprehend someone, we do have to take them across to the North Shore, predominantly the Lions Gate Hospital. So it's a significant amount of time and a significant amount of travel there in every kind of weather you can imagine.
So those are incidents, or could that all be the same person?
Could be.
Okay.
Very well could be. Not saying that it is, but it could be. This talks a little bit about the strategic plan for the next 3 years. The RCMP has different plans that they utilize to kind of develop priorities. One of them is the strategic plan. One of them is the annual performance plan. The annual performance plan is the tangibles, how we're going to work towards the goals that are identified in the strategic plan. So they create the strategic plan early in 2021 with a collaborative process seeking input from our management team, community partners, stakeholders, and residents. We contribute to that annual performance plan every month, I believe. It's all done online. It's not a very intuitive system, but that's how we make it work. So that's where we input any of our achievables that we've had. We've had this number of traffic contacts over the month. We're adding that into the traffic safety piece. We've worked with the schools on this number of projects. We're adding that into the piece. So the guiding principles and priorities relating to that are enhanced public safety, accountability and good governance, organizational excellence, employee excellence, and workplace culture. Some of the challenges that they have mentioned are some of the geographic and social diversity within our communities. It's a little bit different throughout the sea to sky, but I think that with all the movement and tourism, it's similar within Pemberton, Whistler, Squamish. You see a lot of people transiting between the areas. They mentioned rapidly growing communities. I think we've seen a big burst of population in the last year, which the census caught everybody off guard. Or I think it did. Some of the issues around COVID-19 and the public health were a bit of a challenge this year. They talk about the extensive roles required by contract policing in communities. It's coming here, I don't think I realized how many hats I would wear. I find that it's challenging, but it's also very rewarding. That's one of the good things. Next is just the local members who are kind of the priority leaders for those strategic priorities that we're contributing to through that annual performance plan. So each of these members is in charge of documenting and providing guidance to the rest of us on how to achieve those. Crime reduction and community safety. Try and get vote.
Nice new toys.
Is it yours now?
Not full time. I tried to have it here as much as I could through the summer, especially for some of the events. But it does have to go back and forth to Squamish for maintenance and for their use as well. So we did have it for good periods of time. We used it a lot. So one of the priorities for crime reduction and community safety is increased intelligence-led policing. We're working on trying to improve communication with some of the analysts because that would be a huge help, but it's in progress. So hopefully we'll be able to work on that a bit more. Operational planning for major events. We had ops plans in place for all the major events this summer. Everything went really well. Dock dance, bow fest, ball tournament, all that was pre-planned and prepared for. They were all very fun. No major issues. Education and prevention. The inspector has made it a priority to host training in the Sea to Sky corridor. We talked about some of the management training for the NCOs, which is my rank and above. We're working on obviously the annual training piece for all the members, but then also improving other aspects that are a bit unique to this region. It's not everywhere where you have police that are on e-bikes at certain points in the summer and then snowmobiles in the winter. We worked really hard on some of the snow related stuff because of that aspect through the Sea to Sky. I actually worked this year on obtaining some grant funding for some more avalanche training for a handful of us this winter. So that's coming through civil forfeiture in the next couple of months. We worked with the Canadian Coast Guard and Transport Canada to deal with some of the There have been some derelict vessels predominantly coming out of Falls Creek that have showed up on private mooring buoys around the island, and those tend to bring with them property crime and other issues, so. Worked on some of that as the summers progressed. Worked with BC Ferries for some emergency preparedness around bomb scares, that kind of stuff. As the summer went on, two of the constables did a tour in August, I believe. And then again, the inspectors working on some of the more regular training that they can do in-house. We're starting to try and use MS Teams to gain access to some of that because we can't always attend in person. As I said, the events over the summer were very fun, very well attended, well run, and it was kind of nice to have them back after a couple of years of not being able to do things. We saw a significant increase on all corners of the island of visitors. Certain areas like the cideries are really attracting people to the other end of the island in ways that I hadn't really experienced, so we're having to expand just outside of the Cove. Yeah, the planning and kind of preparation for the events really went a long way in managing some of it, and there were no issues. It was all good fun. One of the other priorities was youth. We haven't been able to get into the schools in the last 2 years because of COVID, so we're starting to come back and do a lot of that stuff. Lockdown drills, fire drills, working with the communities. I worked with IPS a little bit to do some of their master works with their students. I managed to sit in on a homelessness awareness event with their students. That was amazing. They had a bonfire at the school. We had to sit around in a group and chat, which was fantastic. You don't get to do a lot of that as a policeman. Kids are usually terrified of it. After about grade 3, they don't want to talk. So that was really neat. It was very interesting. Worked a little bit with some of the community organizations to develop some brochures around some local issues, ATV safety, internet safety for kids. Mayor and I developed a community garden. He did a lot more work than I did, but because he's more handy. So the intent with that is to eventually try and grow some fresh food and have it maintained by the community and utilize that space a little better than what we're using it for. So we're making progress slowly. And I coached baseball again this year. Great. It was fantastic. It's great. We a bunch of the local kids. Next priority was the road safety piece. Seems to be a hot button issue for a lot of people. We've been trying to continue on with a lot of the impaired driving enforcement throughout the year. You'll often see us out in the evenings on weekends and midweek if there's an event kind of mid-island looking for impaired driving. Speed enforcement's a big thing. People have been talking about that in different parts of the island, so we're working towards that. I've been in contact with the Lower Mainland's Integrated Road Safety Unit and the BC Highway Patrol, so they're hopefully going to be joining us for different initiatives over the next few months. We'll work on some of that. The school zones at the beginning of the school year, we were out there again with the speed board. It was very fun. It was nice to see all the kids after the summer, and it's good to catch up. Bike to school week at Bix is always big. Work a little bit on trying to slow people down and communicate a little bit. That seems to be kind of an interesting issue with e-bikes that's shifting. So the new bike lane has been very well received. And then some of the running races, the hand loggers half marathon, and run for Rwanda and stuff. We participated in portions of that for some of the traffic control. Operational excellence and emergency preparedness. Worked with Trustee a lot over the last couple months and she arrived doing some training with those guys, EOC stuff, the NBC, search and rescue, Coast Guard, the NERPs, we've worked with fire a whole bunch. So just kind of working through some of the training piece, lessons learned. One of the things that came out of the atmospheric river was that there was a Rogers outage. And as soon as our cell phones went offline, I realized that we couldn't communicate with fire. So we're working on either obtaining one of the fire radios so we can communicate with public works and fire, or having the fire radio channel put onto our radios, so that kind of mitigates that need for the cell phone. You become very reliant. When they fail, that's not fun. Yeah, again, we work with BC Ferries, Metro Vancouver, North Shore EMO, just preparing for different things over the last year. This picture up above Squamish. Towards
Is that a police time that you're out there?
no, I was actually out there with conservation, but that was my time. So the inspectors wanted to prioritize for performance management, recognition, and safety. So he developed a awards and recognition committee. There was a member of the RCMP killed on Highway 99 just south of Squamish. So this was the 20-year anniversary of his death. Councillor Whale Audi. This says planning underway, but I was planning to present this a while ago. So that regimental ball went, it was a week or so ago in Whistler, and that was really well received. And the RCMP's developed a collective agreement between our union and Treasury Board. So that's been interesting. We traditionally we weren't unionized. So that's been a bit of a shift when it comes to working in a union environment. It's very different than the paramilitary organization that I grew up in. So it's new. For employee and health and wellness, we're doing yearly wellness checks. There are 2 designated psychologists in the Sea to Sky corridor for the RCMP currently, which was something that the current inspector's predecessor developed with Staff Sergeant Bradley. I've never seen that done anywhere else. It's quite a process to get a psychologist pre-approved for the RCMP. And it takes a bit of specialization. There's a lot going on with us quite frequently. So that's being utilized. And there's peer-to-peer training around workplace fatigue and stressors and some of those things that we're developing it. It's still in its infancy, I feel, but it is being talked about now and it is being worked on by management. So we haven't really participated in the fitness challenges yet, mostly because they're scared of how fit we are.
Yeah.
This is the last slide is just some of the interesting stuff that happened this year, Justin.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a surprise when I got that call.
I'll bet.
Helicopter crash on the west side of Mount Gardner. That was an interesting investigation. If anybody's interested, Transport Canada actually came out with an incredible report on that. It's very thorough. So have a read. The camp from behind the library there, and us out on the boats dealing with some property crime on the north end of the island. We were actually able to utilize the boat for a couple different things that we wouldn't traditionally have been able to do unless cormorant was available. So it's been really good to have that here. Thank you very much. Does anyone have a question?
Yeah, anybody have questions? Rob?
Yeah, just one question and one comment. Adam, thanks for your report. I really appreciate it. I brought this up year 1 of this term, and it was around the school and positioning of police in front of the school just prior to the kids coming in. So a lot of times, I know they did this in Vancouver where they would start their shifts in certain locations.
Yeah.
And I guess the question to me at the time was, is it possible that if you do that where you're starting in certain locations, that could be a prioritized area where the police might park just before school and then go on their duties and do that afterwards. Do you know if that's being done on a regular basis or
It doesn't happen on a regular basis. We try and split our time as effectively as we can, just based on the schedule. Given that there's only usually one of us on shift, tend to get bounced around a bit. So it's go sit on White Sails, or we'll go sit on Eagle Cliff, or we'll go to the school. We do try and get out as much as we can, but it doesn't happen as much as I think I would like.
Yeah.
Not, it does happen, it doesn't happen every morning.
Yeah, and I don't think it's every morning that it's expected, but it'd be nice, you know, and it makes intuitive sense, obviously, that when that's happening. The other one, just around the crime stats, because I do keep an eye on those and sort of see what goes up, what goes down. Usually under others, it's like 20% of stats, right, or lower, hopefully. So, I mean, yours was like a 400% or something, which makes it a bit tough for us as counselors to see, okay, what's going on, right?
And again, I was sent those statistics and I wasn't really given a good breakdown of them. There were also the amount of time that they were available for was actually, I think, 18 months. So it was mid 2020 all the way through 2021. So it wasn't actually indicative of the period of time I was looking for. And then I wasn't able to follow up with the analyst effectively to get a breakdown of what was included in that.
Oh, so those are the stats that were 18 months, not 12.
It wasn't the stretch that I'd actually been looking for. But again, we don't have a local crime analyst for Sea to Sky. They've applied for funding for one for the general investigative section in Squamish and Whistler, but that's still going through a process. So I have to approach someone in E division and try and obtain permission to utilize one of their analysts to get statistics. So then a bit of a process.
Yeah, it was more the proportion of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting. I don't remember seeing it that high in past reports, so
It surprised me as well.
yeah, so just a comment.
So I ran through, again, that 12-month period, I ran through, say, all the results, reports of uttering threats and compared them year to year, just analytically based on the files that I could browse. And I didn't see the numbers that they were describing there, so I don't know what they.
What do you think is if as a council we're going to focus on just making the island safer? This is the bang for the buck. This is where you should focus in.
The thing that seems to be coming to me lately is around traffic stuff, whether it's bicycle related. There seems to be not friction, but a lack of awareness a lot of times on what cyclists are able to do under the Motor Vehicle Act or
should do.
yeah. So it's some of that piece, and that can come with education. That's simple. But some of the infrastructure you guys are putting in place is also helping mitigate that.
Okay.
The speeding piece seems to be big. That's been brought up multiple times, and there's certain things around traffic calming that I know we've talked about in the past. So just continuing down those paths, that seems to be the biggest concerns that are relayed to me. There have been people who communicated about domestic violence and impaired driving and stuff in the past as well. So those are also on the radar. But the ones that come to me the most frequently are related to predominantly speeding and just courtesy on the roadways.
I was surprised to see only 10 speeding tickets or speeding infraction. I thought that'd be higher.
There's a lot of local courtesy given the size of the area. There's a lot of the.
I know you guys are doing that.
There's a lot of yeah, well,
Thanks.
is that you know, with the amount of tourists we had this summer, that sort of thing, and there's always problems down the ferry lineup. Do you see that as a police issue really, or is it just an inconvenience?
We do deal with it. I think
Yeah. Thank you.
it's
for
a
that.
more complex issue than just,
Yeah.
you know, having a traffic control person down there on Sunday kind of thing. Because of the funding piece and everything else.
Yeah.
I recognize that you guys are trying to manage that as well. So
Yeah.
having somebody down there on a Sunday and Monday afternoon, though, did mitigate that risk.
Yeah, good.
So
Well, that's good to hear.
that's, if that's gonna be the new normal, because it seems to be the volume of traffic heading onto the ferry doesn't seem to have an end. It's not.
No, that's right. Yeah.
They're looking at overloads midweek now, and that's backing up the road no matter what.
Well, construction hasn't helped down there.
That too. Yeah, that was an issue during the summer, but it was mitigated by having somebody on.
Yes. Yeah.
There were a lot of days when there wasn't anybody on and we had to help with that, but.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Well, we certainly appreciate the help. That's for sure. Any other questions?
I think Gary's trying to get you to do the ferry mark, like.
Yeah, the new ferry, the ferry goes in for rebid tomorrow.
That's okay.
Oh, I don't even think I knew that.
We're getting a new ferry. Yeah, we got the Cumberland comes in.
I'll take.
Slightly smaller.
Why did it be smaller?
76 cars.
They're not using the ramp.
They don't know the ramps. So
Okay, we got a little carried away here, so let's. And thank you very much. I appreciate everything you guys do. You got a great team there, and I'm really surprised by the amount of work you do, because most of the time it's like you're sitting around. We're doing well, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam.
Right, business resolution activist minutes, development variance 2022-0065, 1724 Bowen Bay Road. Natasha. There she
All right.
is. Hi.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Ender and council
Yeah, I'll just
members.
send it right over to you. Carry on.
Right. So if you can let me know if you can't see my screen, but
Oh, that's perfect.
perfect, great. So I have a brief presentation to share just as a refresher for the 1724 Bowen Bay DVP application up for consideration, which is requesting a C setback variance and a rear lot line variance for the development of a primary dwelling. So first off, 1724 Bowen Bay Road, just as a reminder, is nestled within Bowen Bay, so just south of Malkin Creek and north of Evergreen Park. So the property is zoned as SR2B, which in addition to permitting principal uses of a primary dwelling, it also permits marina-related uses, as the property was once owned by the Bowen Bay Marina. The lot is currently vacant as the property owners demolished the original building earlier this year, which had an existing non-conforming setback of approximately 7.5 meters. And as a reminder, the applicant is requesting to reduce the average 15-meter C setback to 7.5 meters, and to reduce the rear lot line setback from 7.5 meters to 5.18 meters. Given the 7.5 C setback, we did ask for an environmental assessment and a separate geotechnical report from qualified professionals who both support the requested C setback as safe. The applicant is also requesting the setback to match the original building setback, which I mentioned was approximately 7.5 meters. However, the building is also being rotated or angled slightly further back, as this is the most viable location in terms of the topography. The lot is predominantly covered in bedrock, and so siting the building further back, the applicant states, would require significant blasting and could impact the ocean sightlines for neighboring properties. At this time, staff received 4 written submissions, all in support of the project. And I've identified them in red or little red circles. And as you can see, the 3 directly adjacent neighbors have all been consulted and are in support of the project. So in light of this, staff are recommending that council issue the DVP for the variance of the C setback and rear lot line for 1724 Bone Bay Road.
All right, thank you very much, Natasha. And we've had some considerable discussion on this. I don't know if we can open it up. Recommendation is right there. Does anybody have comment? Sue?
Yeah, I just think we should be upholding our bylaws. The setback from the sea bylaws are 20 years old now, and they sort of, I think they should be fair and the same for everyone. And we do know that sea levels are rising and storms are getting worse. And we also know more now about the importance of coastlines for wildlife, including everything from the little fish and songbirds to the wildlife that eats the fish, to the whales that eat the bigger fish, and all that kind of thing. Plus, I think over the past few years, particularly through when we were working on the parks plan, we had more public interest in kayaking and views from the sea, and the feeling of coastal ecosystems, the rural character and the beauty of them being something that people wanted to appreciate. So for me, the intertidal area is public realm, and the feeling of having a house close and looming over sort of, or closer than the regular setback, intimidates people from using the public area, even if it's rocks that they're just clambering around as a kid or kayaking past. So I'm not in support of, usually, as usual, I'm not in support of varying these setbacks, because I think they should be the same for everyone. And I think over time we should be moving development back from the sea, in part due to climate changes and things like that. It seems like a lot to me to cut the setback at 15 meters, which isn't even the 30, to cut that back by half to 7.5. So I'm not in favor. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Just go ahead, Michael.
Natasha, this is the second time we've been through this, and if I remember, and I hate to confuse this with any other application, but the reason for this design, and maybe you could just put it back on the board here, was compelling in as much it was the logical place to build this house. Am I right in thinking it is now smaller than the original? There were facts presented last time that I'm trying to recall.
I think you might be thinking of the 1672 Woods Road application, which I'll be presenting to next. But essentially, the building envelope, it's very similar to the non-conforming existing building envelope, which they demolished this year, but which is identified in yellow.
Yes.
And so, as you can see, they're kind of just rotating it back a little. And so further, if we're going west, I suppose, it's all bedrock. And where the initial location or the building is, everything was more of a flat terrain. It had been cleared previously.
Okay. And there is no site view lines affected, and the neighbors are in favor, right? The neighbors are fine with it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the original building was non-conforming itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually have no problem with this, and I'd be quite happy to
Can I ask one more question just before you do? Mr.
Sure, go ahead, yeah.
About the septic, it said that the septic was going to be within 30 meters of the sea, but staff didn't have information at the time. Have you heard any more about that, or can you fill me in?
No, unfortunately, we weren't able to connect with the septic professional, but in terms of the environmental review done on the municipality's end, they were stating that best practices are to have it outside of the 30 meters, but that was predominantly more pertaining to the septic field. The septic tanks are the ones which are in question.
Tanks. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any further discussion? Okay, were you gonna read that?
I'd be
Michael?
quite happy to read the recommendation of council issue development variance permit DBP 20220065 for the variance of the setback from the sea and the rear lot line setback of 1724 Bowen Bay Road, legally described as Lot B, Block A, District 492, Group 1, New Westminster District Plan, EPP 794, PID 0313185525.
You're gonna move that?
I'll move that.
Okay, Allison on the second, further discussion? No, okay, I'll ask a question, all in favor? And opposed? Okay, Councillor Pass in opposition, otherwise everybody in favor. Move on to 6.2, don't go anywhere, Natasha. Variance permit DVP 2022-0189, and that's for 1672 Woods Road. And back to you, Natasha, on that one.
Great. Okay, so next up, I'll quickly review the second DBP application for consideration at 1672 Woods Road. This particular lot is located in Woods Road community, so the northern region of the island within Grafton Bay and just south of Honeymoon Creek. The lot is zoned as SR2 and is approximately 0.15 hectares. The lot is currently vacant as the pre-existing primary dwelling, which had an existing non-conforming setback of 13 meters, was demolished in 2007. So as a reminder, the applicant is proposing to build a primary dwelling and an accessory carport, and is requesting to reduce their average neighbor sea setback of 22.3 meters to 13.1 meters. I'll also note that the applicants have requested this setback to coincide with the old building envelope, which, as mentioned, had an existing non-conforming setback of 13 meters. The applicant also believes, given the topography of the site, the requested location makes the most sense or is the most viable. Given the previous building envelope, the terrain is flat. Also previously mentioned in the introduction presentation, alternative locations would require site alterations and tree removal. They could also potentially impact neighbor view lines of the ocean. So at this time of writing, a total of 2 written submissions in support have been received from the neighbors. I'll also note that 1664, they own the piece of property to the south of 1672 as well.
Oh, I see. Yeah, there's another one there, yeah.
So I've just included a render of the proposed building, and I believe this is the one that Michael was talking about. And so it's a little smaller compared to the previous building envelope. And in light of all of this, staff are recommending that council issue DVP for the variance of the sea setback for 1672 Woods Road.
Right, thank you, Natasha. On this one, I think the last discussion is that is a small house, isn't it? It's 900 square feet.
Yeah.
And it is going back further from the ocean, as did the last place. But yeah, I certainly throw it out there. Discussion. So
Same again.
same again. Okay. Anybody else?
I don't mind moving that one, Gary.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's great they're keeping that retaining wall, and they're not gonna demolish all, that. It makes sense on that site.
Least amount of site disturbance.
Yeah, it seemed like the least amount of site disturbance. So, the development variance permit DVP 2022-0189, 1672 Woods Road. Okay, the council issued development permit DVP 2022-0189 for the variance of setback to the sea for 1672 Woods Road, legally described as lot 4, block 1, district lot 2, 968, plan 8111 PI 0102 33903. I'll move that.
Second. Thank you, Michael. Any further discussion? I see none. I'll ask a question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, Councillor passed in opposition, otherwise everybody agrees. And we're going to go to 6.3. Development variance permit DVP 2021-0386, which is at 221 David Road. Back to Natasha Chung.
Great. So last up, we have the consideration for DVP 2021-0386 at 221 David Road. So 221 David Road is located in the Miller's Landing neighborhood, so just north of Mannion Bay, on the eastern portion of the island, and is within or adjacent to the Queen Charlotte Channel. The property is zoned as SR2 and has a lot area of 0.22 hectares. Currently, the lot has a primary dwelling and an accessory garage carport building on the property. The lot is also adjacent to an undeveloped coastal viewpoint within the municipality's road right-of-way, which I'll speak more to in the next few slides. So the applicant is proposing a small addition to the existing primary dwelling and is requesting to reduce their sea setback from 26.4 meters to 23.4 meters. I should note that given the dimensions of the particular lot and the location of the existing non-conforming primary dwelling, any work that involves adding or modifying external walls or roofs or the roof envelope requires a variance. So here are just some renders to demonstrate the small impact of the request. The addition in it of itself will be 32 square feet to accommodate an increase in the homeowner's entrance area. At the time of writing, staff have received 2 letters from adjacent neighbors in support and 1 letter from a member of the public discussing the encroachment issues, which I'll speak to on the next slide. And similarly, the owners of 228 own the property to the west.
Okay.
So as mentioned in previous staff presentations, this particular property has a number of encroachments within the public road allowance. And given there is an undeveloped coastal access viewpoint, which is an area identified in the parks plan, as a condition of the DVP issuance, the applicant were requesting they should or must address the encroaching non-compliance issues in the form of an encroachment agreement before the municipality issues an occupancy permit. Now to address, I'll go back there, to address the encroachment concerns, it was initially advised that an encroachment agreement be presented simultaneously with this DVP consideration. However, for reasons beyond staff's control, along with the growing complexity of the encroachment issue and its proximity to the undeveloped coastal viewpoint, we have not yet formalized an agreement. Oops, daisies, sorry. Let's go back there. However, we'll continue to work with the property owners to draft an agreement and we'll present to the upcoming council with an estimated timeline of hopefully late 2022 or early 2023. But again, we'll be working with the property owners to formalize a timeline there. And so, in light of everything, staff are recommending similarly that council issue DBP 20210386 for the variance of a setback from the sea for 221 David Road.
All right, thank you, Natasha. Again, this is one we looked at before. The entire house is not conforming, and a little addition at the back part of it actually, I think, becomes conforming, doesn't it, Natasha?
Which part are you talking about?
Part of that little addition at the door there.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's a little
It actually becomes conforming, but the rest of it is all non-conforming. And the neighbor behind them certainly doesn't have a problem with it. So anyway, we leave it there. I'm gonna go to Allison first and then back to Sue.
I'm just a little confused. The recommendation that's on
Yeah.
our agenda package.
No, I think there was a change. It's on the table. Yeah.
There was unfortunately a technical glitch, and I believe the recommendation was from, yeah, a previous, but on the on table.
And then just a little bit of
revised.
clarification on the encroachment agreement.
Sure.
Can we do that with, but you'll have to sign one of those before an occupancy agreement, occupancy is given under the building permit, was that? Or before,
Occupancy, not building permit.
or before the building permit is issued?
No, occupancy.
The occupancy permit would be associated with the building permit. So they would apply for the building permit. The whole idea is just so it doesn't tie up if they want to move forward with building in the interim, because encroachment agreements can take quite a while. Like on average, they're over 6 months. And so for staff, like we wanted to be a little more confident having an encroachment agreement moving forward before we presented it with this DBP. And so that's why we're requesting that we move forward with the upcoming council.
In order to get the building permit.
So it'll be a condition, yeah.
But it's not going to be a condition of issuing the building permit that no encroachment. It will be a condition that no occupancy permit will be issued.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then my question is, does that need to be in the council resolution?
That's what my question too.
I mean, it could be. It's in the. It'll be a condition like within the DVP. So it is stated in the draft permit as a condition.
Okay.
But
sorry, I must have missed that.
That's okay.
Right, Sue.
Yeah, I would like to, I'm glad to see the changed recommendation here, and I'm wondering, just for clarity, because it could take a few years and who knows, the property owners, sometimes properties do change hands unexpectedly, and I don't know, I know that council is going to change over, right? So I wonder if using the wording from the top of the second page, if we could add to the recommendation on condition that an occupancy certificate not be issued until an encroachment agreement has been reached. Would that be okay?
Well, we just Natasha just told us that'll be put in the variance permit.
Well, I'm trying to find the variance permit through all this stuff.
Where is that in the variance permit, Natasha? Because I can see.
I believe it's attached. It says attachment. One, maybe. Yeah, I think it's attachment 1.
Okay.
If not,
I just wanted it to be clear in the resolution, because that's what people would do. And for the anyway, that's.
I mean, I don't see an issue with if you wanted to change the recommendation. It's like it's within the permit and also the recommendation. That would be fine.
Now, I just found the permit. It says the following is a permit condition applicable to the above variance. An occupancy certificate will not be issued until an encroachment agreement is formalized between the municipality and the property owners of 221 David Road.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is in there.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see it.
Any other discussion on this? Go ahead, Sue.
Just my usual one, in that this is a significant encroachment of
Got nothing to do with the encroachment thing.
well, I think it does, because I think it sets a go ahead and do it and we will fix it later kind of precedent again. And I would sooner have an encroachment agreement in place before we looked at a development variance permit. That's my position. And also I'd just say back in 2020, when we did the first beach access inventory, there did used to be a bench up above that was used by the neighborhood to look out over from the end of the public road right away. I think the trees have grown up a bit, and maybe it's not there anymore. I don't know who put it there, but it was used.
Is that the one on the higher one?
Yeah.
Before you go down the driveway, it's still there. I mean,
Okay.
reconstituted and everything, so it's quite nice.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that the beach access was used for that, and also some people did go down there. So, you know, it is public right away again that's been encroached on. So I think the process issue is that we should have an encroachment agreement before we issue the development variance permit. That's my take.
Well, got an occupancy permit to cover it. They can't use it unless it's done. So it's the same thing.
Oh, well.
Okay, further discussion. Go ahead, Maureen.
I would like the resolution to include the wording that Allison read. If there's no harm in doing so, I think it actually makes it clearer to the public that there is an understanding on the part about the timing of the encroachment agreement. And there have been issues related to encroachment agreements in the past. So any clarification we can provide to the public, I think would be helpful.
David.
I agree with the approach. I'm glad that agreement will be part of it, but I agree with Maureen's point. Remember at the beginning of this term, we had to fuss about that access to the little beach. And things changed at the last minute. I wasn't on that council. I don't know what happened exactly, but I think to make it clear to the public, I don't remember exactly what Allison's words were, but just to demonstrate that this is part of the agreement. That's all. I think that would make it clear that what we're doing.
Oh, okay.
So the motion is that we grant the
DVP.
Yeah.
On the condition.
And that the DVP is granted on the condition that an occupancy certificate will not be issued until an encroachment agreement is formalized.
Whatever. So, okay.
I guess there's one other just occurred to me as I was reading that. What happens if they don't do the, well, I guess DVPs for the proposed work, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, can you read back the whole
thing.
recommendation? Yeah, please.
So that council issued development variance permit DVP 2021-0386 for the variance of setback from the sea for 221 David Road, legally described as Lot 2, District Lot 1911, Plan 15971, PID 007-613-261, on the condition that an occupancy permit will not be issued until an encroachment agreement is formalized
Between the municipality and the owners of 221 David Road.
Sure.
I think it's an occupancy certificate, not a permit.
Yeah, it's a certificate.
I'll move it. Happy to move that.
Thank you, David. I'll second it. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Writing through those. Okay, so I think we're going to bylaws now, and 7.1 is 2020 to 2023 permissive tax exemption. Thank you, Natasha, by the way. I think that's it for you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Permissive tax exemption bylaw number 493/2019, amendment bylaw number 585/2022. Kristen Watson, Chief Financial Officer. Kristen, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm bringing forward this evening an amendment to the 2020 to 2023 permissive tax exemption bylaw that was adopted by council for the years 2020 through 2023. Council adopts a permissive tax exemption with a period of 4 years. And in the ensuing years, if there are additional eligible properties that come forward to request addition to that bylaw, then we'll bring that to council and give council the opportunity to consider that amendment. Just to remind everyone, permissive tax exemption exempts a property owner from municipal taxes, as well as all of the other taxing authorities. So whereas council may provide a grant, that doesn't give the benefiting property the actual tax relief that a permissive tax exemption brings, because it does relieve that property owner of all of the school taxes and all of the other taxing authorities. What it does do is then take the value of the municipal taxes that would otherwise be collected by the municipality, as well as the regional district taxes, as well as the island's trust taxes. And that redistributes those back to the community. And so that's what council needs to consider anytime an application. If that's something that merits that treatment. So for this bylaw, council has received an application from the board of the Bowen Island Community Health Center Foundation for inclusion of the new health center property on Miller Road to be added to the property tax permissive tax exemption bylaw for this year. Okay. So in 2022, the land value was $309,000. There was no improvement value last year, but on the roll next year, there will be an improvement value. I've just estimated a value of about $500,000. They take the value as at July 1st of the prior year. So it was still very much under construction at that point. I just used an estimate of $500,000. So that would bring the value of the municipal tax exemption to about $1,520 for next year if council were to approve that. In total, altogether, the permissive tax exemption bylaw includes an exemption of about $158,000 of taxes. 69,000 of that is the value of the taxes that is put back to the community and redistributed among the property taxes, and 88,000 is the value that's completely exempted and comes from those other taxing authorities. It's a 4-year bylaw. Next fall, we'll bring back a new 4-year bylaw for council to consider for the ensuing 4 years. This is a bylaw that requires public notice under the community charter requirements. So it was advertised in this last week's edition of the Undercurrent. It will be advertised again in this week's edition of the Undercurrent, and it has been promoted on the municipality's social media feeds. I think that's about it. So my recommendation to council is to include the Community Health Center Foundation and amend the bylaw to include that property for next year. It is a charity and it does qualify. It is an eligible organization to receive a permissive tax exemption.
All right. Questions?
I have a question.
Where's the recommendation? Is it?
I'm looking at the cover sheet. My question is, should the street address or something about the Bowen Health Center be in that recommendation? It just doesn't seem to say the property.
So, okay. So to add that it's the Bowen Island Community Health Center, to add that as
I think that should be a whereas in front. Because it's not really part of the bylaw. So whereas the council wishes to include to provide a permissive tax exemption to the Bowen Island Health Center.
Yeah. Okay. As long as it's in the minutes or somewhere so that people can at a glance see that that's what the property does. Yeah.
But with that whereas, I'll read the recommendation.
Please do.
Bylaw number 585/2022, cited Bowen Island Municipality 2020-2023 permissive tax exemption bylaw number 493/2019, amendment bylaw number 2022 be read a first, second, and third time.
Thank you, Allison. Mr. Rob for the second. Any further discussion? That's a question. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. And thank you, Kristen. And we'll move on to Crown Land Referrals. LR 01-2022, 270 Smugglers Cove Private Mortgage Facility. Drew back, Planner One. Drew, welcome.
Thank
you. And I'll pass it right over to you.
Okay, thank you. There's the standard share screen. Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. So Bowen Island Municipality has received a Crown Land referral from the Ministry of Forests, Lands, Natural Resource Operations, and Rural Development. Referral is in relation to a proposed tenure for a private mortgage facility. As part of the application, an environmental assessment was provided by the applicant, which identifies possible environmental risks and recommends mitigation measures to lessen the likelihood or degree of environmental harm by the proposed construction activities. So the location, the proposed dock and floats will be constructed at 270 Smugglers Cove Road, which is located near the northeast tip of the island. The property itself is under a comprehensive development 4 zoning, so CD4, while the area north of the property where the dock will be constructed is a water use zone, so WG1. Private mortgage facilities are permitted use in this zone. The site plan and the section plan will show next display the proposed structure itself, which will comply with all the requirements pertaining to private mortgage facilities in the WG1 zone. In terms of just it's kind of one of the studies that the environmental consultants have done studying the area to be impacted. So this is just showing that the area to be worked in consists almost completely of bedrock and boulders, not a sandy or silty beach that would be considered more sensitive. Alternatives to council's approval of the request include that number 1, council could direct staff to indicate to Ministry of Forest, Lands, Natural Resource Operations, and Rural Development that Bowen Island Municipality objects to the tenure application. 2, council could direct staff to include specific comment regarding this application to the ministry. 3, the council refer the referral to staff for additional comments or for any other implications as identified by council. Staff's recommendation is that council makes no objection to the application CLR 01-2022, provided that the environmental mitigation measures recommended in the overview environmental impact assessment prepared by PGL Environmental Consultants dated August 24th, 2022 are followed.
All right, thank you, Drew. And Sue, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple questions to start. I'm wondering, I'm looking at this diagram, which suddenly today I can see a lot better, which is the one of the substrate, the colorful one with the picture of the biota on the bedrock in the intertidal zone. That one, yeah. Can you give me I can see where the natural boundary is, which is the high level mark. Yeah. Can you give me an idea of where low tide would fall on there?
I might be able to by comparing with. Let's see. No, I don't.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. I've walked there before, and it seems to me that
True,
people move back along the shore. Do you know, Liam?
Well, if you look at that image there, it has the
vertical
tide marks there, the 0 meter, 1 meter, 2 meter.
Yeah, go to the
top right of the
yeah
little black boxes along the right. Yeah, there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's 0.
That's the 0 meter.
Yeah, that's a 0 meter tide. So you could have a negative tide that would go below 0. But generally speaking, low tide doesn't go below 0 often.
Okay, thank you. I'm just that helps. I missed those little boxes. Thank you. And because I'm concerned about the part of our bylaw, and it's in your report under the bullets there about that docks will not physically divide a beach. and will not, if this is page 153 of 284, will not physically divide a beach unless it's a community dock, or will not limit, restrict or limit public use of the beach. And to me, and for one having been there before, it is a beach. It's a place you come down to the water, and it's in a little bay, and it's already got a bunch of docks. And I think that it would, and it's anyway. I think it would limit people going out there and down to the water's edge and to look at that intertidal life and be close to the water. That's my take. So I'm not in favor.
Okay, anybody else? Comments?
Just Trey, quick question. Islands Trust, are they involved at all with this? Do they come back with any comments or anything like that?
No, I believe it's purely between us and the ministry, correct? Yeah. Yeah, no involvement with Islands Trust.
Have you got another map that shows all the other lots around it? I mean, this isn't part of Hood Point West, or is it?
No, it's not there yet.
No, it's.
It's a point.
Right there. Does that help a bit there?
Okay, so there's not a lot of other docks there that I can.
No, you can taste the nice little beach down to the
the
north
right
side there, but there's certainly
Pretty
nothing.
accessible on the.
I don't see how it divides.
It doesn't divide a beach. It's like a
Well, it's
waterfront.
looking at the maps, it's 2 meters high, so that's 7 feet, so you can walk underneath. Even my son can walk it.
Okay, any further discussion on this?
This is the kind of thing I would like to actually go and see.
Yeah.
Before making a decision.
There is a, can you point out where the public road right of ways are? Because there are public rights of way of water here. And there's 2 of them, neither of them are open at this time.
There's,
I don't know if you can see them there. I looked it up.
there's one right in between 7, or sorry, 264 and 262.
Oh, there you, yeah, you can barely see it, but it's
It's right there.
right when.
Where you've got the cursor.
Okay,
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, clear from the road to the, that being said, it looks like it's undeveloped, it's probably.
And there's another one at the north end of the beach as well.
yeah. I did look them up in the parks plan and they're both down as undeveloped coastal beach accesses. And they don't have particular plans associated with them, but they could in the future. And I just, I think they have value for the public, especially because it is a low, well, it's not a very steep, long walk from the road down. And it is somewhere that we did take little kids down to that beach. It could be useful in the future, especially if the parks plan tells us to watch for places where you can take sea kayaks or personal watercraft up and down to the shore. So in the future, it might be valuable, and I just would hate to be having more private infrastructure taking priority over public use. So that's my little speech, and I'll stop now.
Well. Yeah, Allison.
Have we traditionally in the past given notice that we would be, that we'd receive, or they've advertised in the paper?
No mills in the area either.
So that's going to happen anyhow, right? So we don't have any objections based on any of the bylaws. And it's not dividing the sandy beach that people could walk on.
No.
And they will have to advertise in the local paper.
As part of the ministry process, they are required to advertise.
Yeah.
The ministry collects comments. It's separate from our. So this is like one of the steps as part of their application, so referral to the municipality, and a separate step in their separate ability to a requirement to post notice and comment.
And as far as you know, the notice hasn't been posted in the paper yet. I thought I saw something, that's why I was asking.
Have they given us a deadline for a response?
We've extended it a couple of different times. Yeah, they initially, when they provide us even the application, it's got a pretty tight deadline, and then we still have to get comments back from the environmental consultant. So I asked them to bump back a number of times. So right now they're expecting our comments tomorrow, but I No, you still, I can.
When did we actually get the report?
So I'm not sure offhand,
Like 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
it was right shortly after I started, I'm gonna say it was early May, maybe it was. Yeah, early May or early June, it's been a good 3 or 4 months.
You putting the site visit?
Yeah, I actually would like to go and see the area, if that's possible. And I mean, Glenroe has taken its time in responding to us in the past, so
Yeah, sure.
I don't see why 2 more weeks would make much difference.
I tend to agree. I mean, it certainly doesn't look like it's dividing a beach from looking at it here, but it is an important decision. It seems like it's fair enough to move forward, but it would be, I prefer to look at it. I agree. Have a quick look at it and say, okay.
I have no objection in principle, but if it helps, let's get this done quickly so that we can get back on. Hopefully by the next council meeting, we get a quick agreement on it. Because
I'd like it to come back to the next council.
I think your motion to defer to October 24th. That's my understanding, but I don't know who is.
Motion to defer to the 24th of October.
Okay.
And but a site visit be arranged. Yeah. At low tide. Well, if possible. If possible.
Well, I can tell what you can tell what the tide is, it doesn't. Okay, so first and second, any further discussion? Okay, I'll ask a question, all in favor? It's unanimous, thank you very much. Okay, so we move on to the 8.6 multi-year core, getting back to Chris Morrison. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm bringing this quick report forward this evening to deal with a multiple number of committee recommendations and council motions that have all kind of converged at the same time. We have council motion on the table from June 28th, where staff were directed to review the criteria for multi-year core funding eligibility. We have some new community grants advisory committee recommendations that are being brought forward this evening from the meeting earlier this summer. We have the expiry of the Bowen Island Historians, the Good Museum and Archives multi-year core funding agreement. We have the expiry of the joint use agreement at the school, where we provide support to the West Vancouver School District in respect of the community school coordinator position. And we also have sort of a void in policy, which really provides guidance when we're entering into a service agreement with a group like Tourism Bowen Island, for example. I think with all of these different things happening at once, to deal with the one council motion on an ad hoc basis, I really think we need to take a more comprehensive approach and look at all of these things. So I would recommend to council that we work on a more comprehensive policy that kind of brings all of these different community support grants that the municipality provides to different organizations, and we kind of try to bring them all in under one comprehensive policy. I think it's a good time to do it, given the expiry of all of these agreements that we have, and I think that it will just provide more comprehensive guidance going forward as to how to deal with these requests for assistance going forward.
Okay. Michael, you got anything to say on that?
Yes, having been involved, thank you very much. It is really time that I think that we just did some really articulate and meaningful. I don't like the word housekeeping, but we need to bring this together and come up with one cohesive policy that works. And in fact, the community grants are granting team very positive, I think, and very helpful, and came up with a really well thought out direction to assist. So I'm totally in favor of what Kristen is attempting to do here and what was submitted. You know, what could be wrong than a revised comprehensive policy? I think its time has come, and I thoroughly commend that as a course of action. And Chris has gone on to say reduce administrative burden, absolutely. Ensure transparent and accountability. Well, transparent is a word that's overused, but yes, I think this will be a more direct, better approach. So thank you very much, Chris, for bringing this forward. I totally support both the spirit and the notion.
So thanks. Mike.
Thanks, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I also think that it's good timing to do this, because I have seen it. Anyway, it's in many different places, and I sort of encounter them through the years. I'm going, oh, another one, and it makes sense to look at them all together, particularly for the community, as well as lowering the work burden on the groups, and to be in the fairness to the new council. So also, I think it's good timing. Besides the good points that Michael made, the community center is coming along. So there will be more community groups and talking about how we all going to work together and share these spaces and resources. So I think it makes sense to do that timing wise. We also, on the weekend, the mayor opened the West Side Playscape, which was a result of the collaborative projects policy. And I was intrigued to see the word projects used several times in the criteria. And that's a policy that's working well. And if that can be folded in a little bit, because some of them take place outdoors and some of them take place indoors, and some of them are programs that go on, but and some of them, of course, are not on municipal land, but still we're supporting it. So if that can be folded into. And the third one is just the, it's not only finances that we support with, we also offer to some groups public building spaces, right? Like Tourism Bowen and that caring circle, you have use of that cottage. We pay the utilities, as far as I understand. Maybe I've got that wrong, but valuable community groups, we support them in different ways. I just would love something that captured all the ways that we could work together collaboratively and meet the needs and make the community even better. So I'm in favor.
Okay, thanks, Joel. Anybody else? Comments?
I'm also very much in favor. I want to ask if something like the carrot funding, whatever the new name is for that program, the carrot funding would fall into this as well.
That has an environmental focus on it. I'd have to review the eligibility criteria and if that's something that could be made available to community groups to carry out projects that met the eligibility criteria, then I think that it would still fall under this type of policy. It's just coming from a different law. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And we have supported individual community groups with that funding, and it'll be a bigger pot.
Yeah, so that's another thing.
So,
good idea.
Could I just add to that, if I may, Mayor?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. Councillor Nicholson brings up a good point with that program being increased in size. We have the opportunity to realize the potential for different styles of projects. And so I would almost say we want to really take a close look at that and almost through a different lens, because I would never want to give up on the funding that we've been providing to community initiatives through that program. But it really, if the level of funding that we're going to be receiving is real and is carries on, then we could actualize some real capital investment type initiatives. So just wanted to put that out there.
All right, thank you, Liam.
Don't, I can move the motion.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was sort of in sort of started the community grants program, and it's more along the way quite considerably. And of course, we took a couple of the people out of the top because they were taking about 40,000 out of the top of it or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it was the pot was getting smaller and smaller for all of the small community grants. Now, and I think it's still sitting at about $40,000. If you took those two grants that went into core funding, took that money out to put it into core funding for those groups, then there would only be apparently about 25 grand left.
It would be, but you know, again, that's something that is kind of morphed and kind of been sort of an unwritten understanding. So my point in all of this is, okay, well, let's create a policy that provides clarity around that, because that's not, if we had different community grant advisory committee members, maybe they would feel completely different and they'd want to, and they'd want to do the whole pot of funds that's available. So it's very much an ad hoc and informal understanding, and that's a little bit why I'm coming back to council to say, let's clarify this.
No, I agree 100%.
Because when I look at the terms of reference, when I look at the policies, I don't see anything that says community grants committee is only going to deal with project-based. I don't see that. So
no, it's not in there.
So we need to get
It started out that way back.
Started went that way. Well, first it was in council, as you know.
I remember.
And it was it was hard to put council in that position. So they started the committee, so that the committee, basically the community members, would decide how the money was split up, and we did a great job. It worked well for years.
Yeah.
But there things, change.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is, and I certainly advocate taking a look at what has to be done here to sort of give it a little better direction, should we say?
Yeah.
And from upcoming new council and that sort of thing, trying to straighten it out for them. Okay, so the recommendation. Can I leave the whereas?
Yeah.
Thank you. Therefore, we resolve the council direct staff to develop a comprehensive policy for consideration that defines clear categories of municipal grant programs and a related application evaluation, which is interesting, and reporting process. I'll move that back up. Thank you, Michael. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye, that was unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Now, there's also a recommendation out of part A of that.
From the committee.
From the Community Grants Advisory Committee. Are we gonna have a little chat about that too?
I think these second couple, right, there's couple recommendations down at the bottom, but I think they were from the grants committee.
Well,
So,
yeah,
recommending that we do what we just did.
and that's exactly right. That's what it is.
Really,
That's the community council.
That was what was providing the direction for.
For that one, okay.
And given
Because it's-
the other motion bond that had already been passed.
Yeah,
we need to look at the whole.
Yeah.
So basically, this recommendation under sub A,
Yeah,
which is, this is their recommendation, but,
the evaluation criteria, yeah.
but the actual recommendation is.
The one
this
we
one is the one out of the minutes, little a. And then, but the actual recommendation we just voted on is the only recommendation we're voting on at this point.
It covers that one day, covers the day.
Perhaps we have to get back to that group, let them know the same for the recommendation.
Yeah.
And
Done by way of feedback.
Yeah, everybody.
the motion that we passed.
So we'll move on to 8.2, which is use of video recording equipment policy. Bonnie Brokenshire, interim manager of Bylaw services and last duty of her reign. Welcome, Bonnie.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. And tonight I'm presenting the use of video recording equipment policy. So section 7 and 8 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms protects the rights of citizens to be secure in their daily lives and to be free from unjustified intrusion. The BC Freedom of Information and Protection and Privacy Act, FIPPA, recognizes that and protects an individual's privacy right The FIPPA governs the collection, use, and disclosure of personal information by local governments. Where video recording equipment is being utilized, the local government must comply with privacy protection provisions in the FIPPA. Bowen Island Municipalities' use of video recording equipment policy number 2203 outlines processes aligned with the FIPPA requirements intended to protect the privacy rights of the public and BIM staff. So currently, there are a few cameras being used in the Cove. There are 5 cameras around the Cove Commons, and there are 3 cameras on the Snug Cove dock south.
Government dock?
Yeah, the south dock. Not the north dock? Not the north dock. The policy is partitioned into 4 main sections, and I'll go through the 4 sections of the policy. The first section deals with location of recording and receiving equipment. And the policy states that video cameras will be located in areas where they will be most effective in meeting the purposes of the surveillance. And the second item under the location is that the municipality will post signage in the areas under surveillance that clearly advises employees and the public that the designated areas are under video surveillance. And the third point is that video recording equipment will be located in a secure area, which will only be accessed by authorized employees. The second portion of the policy goes into authorized personnel, and the access to the video equipment and recorded information will be limited to the following staff. And that's the chief administrative officer, the corporate officer, deputy corporate officer, bylaw service officers, superintendent of public works, and the RCMP. And only authorized personnel will have access to the video recording equipment. And all authorized personnel will be made aware of the purposes of the video recording equipment and their obligations under the FIPPA. And training will be conducted accordingly. Also, access to relevant portions of video recordings will be given by the corporate officer or deputy corporate officer or bylaw service officer to other managers and legal counsel where necessary for investigative purposes. And finally, access to the relevant portions of the recordings will be given to the corporate officer, deputy corporate officer, or bylaw officer. To the RCMP for investigative purposes where potential illegal activity has been identified. And the third component of the policy is about video recordings, and it's very important. There's lots of criteria here. I can go through it, but it basically is about the storage, the access. It's all very it relates or it correlates with the provisions under the FIPPA. And the fourth component of the policy is about compliance, and the employees named in the policy as authorized personnel will be required to review the policy. And also the employees who operate any municipal video recording equipment will receive privacy awareness training at least annually. And any breach of this policy may result in discipline up to and including dismissal. And so that leads to the recommendation before council, and that is that council adopt the use of video recording equipment policy number 2203.
All right, thanks very much, buddy. Any discussion on that?
Can I just
go ahead.
It's funny, just one question, because this I presume this is kind of boilerplate from other municipalities. It also reminds me of the same records about keeping armaments and guns. Well, it's always the same thing. The review, does it actually say the review because it's got people's signatures on? It has to be done every 12 months. What is the period of the review? What is there a date checklist of the review?
Yeah, it's just that people should, the review of the policy itself or the review of the authorized personnel
yes.
of the policy. Standard, when I did the research, it does say annually in the recommendations to local government. So just going with that.
So what we're saying the same thing. Okay. All right. And when we say annually, because another case somewhere else would have got tripped over, annually is once a year.
Yeah.
But when? And who keeps the record? Let's say you say it's March the 1st. Who has on their tickler file March the 1st? We must pull this document and review it. Because I can assure you, this is like it sits there year after year. We could show we should review it annually. Everybody knows, but who's going to remember 12 months down the road, change of council, new people? How do you embed that in some form of system which throws up, rather like it does on our calendars here? Hey, today, this is the time just to pull that file and make sure those signatures are still up to date.
Would it be on the checklist?
Well, I know that our new HR, or not new, our HR coordinator she's keeping track and getting together consolidating training. So we could talk to her about having that as a checklist for annual training for staff and also for onboarding new staff, if any of those positions turn over. So that could be a check.
It's not be pedantic, right? Just make sure it doesn't roll over year after year and no one looks at it. Because I can assure you that's all too common and not with us anywhere.
All right, Michael. Thank you, Suella.
Thanks for this, Bonnie. I think it's a really good idea to have something like this. And I just have a couple of questions. One of them is we also collect these video recordings and they're available to the public. And do they need to be recognized? This is a policy for the municipality. I guess my questions are, should we exclude council chambers? The second question is, do we have cameras anywhere else? Or should this be a Snug Cove specific policy? And the third one is, do we have a superintendent of public works, or is that what we call the WD?
Yeah, we do have a superintendent of public works, that's Paul.
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah, sorry, I just for me. But the other questions were about, should we exclude this, and do we anticipate having, or do we have or anticipate video elsewhere?
So
Liam has his hand there. Liam has his hand.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and Bonnie, don't hesitate to jump in on this too, but I was just thinking with these meetings, they're well communicated to the public that they are accessible by video and that those videos are available through YouTube you know, so these are all public and open videos. It's well communicated and they're not restricted, they're not limited access in the other way that the other videos are restricted access and they're not available to the public. They don't fall under the same strict requirements that Bonnie's policy is trying to provide protections and awareness about.
Right, well, thank you. And I do understand that. It's just that the purpose here, and I'm looking at page 230, says to establish guidelines for the use of video recording equipment by and other municipality to ensure the safety and security of municipal assets, employees, and the public. And so I thought maybe somewhere in there we just wanted to say, like right after that, excluding in council chambers or at public meetings or something like that. But on the other hand, that can also be fixed next year. And I'm not, I just wanted to draw it to the attention. My second question is, do we have or anticipate having cameras elsewhere on board, for example, another dock or something like that in the future, or apart?
Yeah. Perhaps, and we may have to revisit the policy and adjust it over time.
Yeah, but we've got other municipal assets around, like the work should happen.
Like the water treatment plant might be a place.
Water treatment plant, things like that. So that fits under the safety and security of municipal assets. So.
And I'll be really clear with folks that we struggled with what to call this, you know, because
video cameras.
Well, anyway, I'm in support, and the questions I've asked, I'm satisfied that they'll be caught eventually if they need to be caught. in a review, since that's in there about the annual part. And so I'd be happy to move the motion.
Is there further, let's just.
Okay, some more discussion.
I'll go to Rob first. Then.
So, but just a couple quick questions. So, because we have cameras up right now, are we under no policy right now, or we just
Yeah.
put them up without a policy?
Yeah, we were not aware, I was not aware when we did start, and the Public Works Superintendent previously was not aware that we did have to follow the guidelines of the Act. And there has been some revisions recently to the Act. So we did know that we had to put signage up with the cameras that tells people that this area is under surveillance. So those have been up since we put the cameras up, those signs. But this policy is part of the privacy impact assessment, which I also have conducted and with our privacy officer, Sophie. So this is really filling a niche that was overlooked and needed to be filled to fulfill our obligations under the FIPTI.
And if we were to go and do any more camera surveillance, that would first go to council for approval, and then it would be implemented under this new policy.
The policy would have to probably be law. It's a different thing.
So right now,
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting we.
Yeah,
I just-
I don't know if it would be, I don't know if it would have to come to council if we put up more cameras.
I don't think they all came to council.
No, it didn't come to council.
No, it's not alive.
Operational.
No, it's quite operational, and it'd be something that we would, we take very seriously, not something we take lightly, and don't really want to be putting cameras up.
Yeah.
So it's a very limited activity that we do.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking is sometimes these things take on a life of their own.
Yeah.
I worked in community centers when I started, there were 0 cameras anywhere. Now they're starting to proliferate all over the place, and before you know it, you're surveilling people all over the place. I just want to.
Well, Rob, when you started way back, things were different.
Sophie?
I just want to add that there was, as Bonnie said, a privacy impact assessment done for the cameras. So if any additional cameras were added, I think we would either update the existing privacy impact assessment or create a new one.
Okay. Okay. And Maureen?
It's not a question. It's video recording alone. It's not audio as well.
There's no audio, it's just pure video.
Pure video.
All right, and so I'm going to read this recommendation. It's a long one. Council adopt the use of video recording equipment policy and do all three. Thank you. Further discussion?
Yeah, sorry. I was reading there's a sentence in the end of the third paragraph that says under the description of the Freedom of Information and Privacy and PPI Act, where video recording equipment is being utilized, the local government must comply with privacy protection provisions. So theoretically, there are some rules for us for these video recording.
There's rules with the video record, and that's what the policy is.
No, I'm talking about what we're doing right here. There's the rules here that we can't video the public, which is.
Well, we are.
No, we can, and that's set out in the through the charter, and the amendments that were made also to allow for more Zoom-based meetings as well.
We're in Cove.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that, so maybe that's covered off in our procedures bylaw and stuff. So just, I guess, the title maybe should say use of video recording equipment for safety and security policy. And then it sort of makes it clear to the public it's not.
I thought the videos are here,
Yeah. I don't know, is that?
Bonnie, would you have a problem with that?
No, not at all. Video descriptive.
Yeah. That's did you get that, Sophie?
Yes.
Because otherwise it sounds like something you might find in a public school about taking out equipment for doing a school project.
Yeah,
Whereas it's got a very different.
No, that's good clarity.
If I can add, just to ease everyone's minds, in terms of video recording in this space, it's best practice to notify the public before they enter the room. So we did actually use to have the signs, but I think since our council chambers overhaul, it disappeared. So we can reinstate that sign and also put a disclaimer.
yeah, that wouldn't hurt.
Put it on the back of the door there.
So the use of video recording equipment policy
No, use of video recording equipment for safety and security.
for safety and security.
And all.
Is everybody okay for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Friendly amendment?
That fits what I was trying to do too, which is
Yeah,
to
define it.
define.
Sophie, have you got that all right? Okay, then I'm gonna ask a question. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you.
Bonnie, thank you. Thank you for everything.
For a little while longer and yeah.
They're very lucky to get you.
When is your last?
Friday.
Thursday. Oh, Thursday.
That's tomorrow.
The day after, no.
Oh, yeah, I know. I jumped ahead.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Those long weekends. Thank you, Bonnie. Take care. I'll see you. Okay, so we're gonna move on to correspondence. Lisa Range on behalf of DK Harris Properties Limited, request for residential parking signage on Seniors Road. Well, the recommendation is council receive the correspondence from DK Harris Properties dated August 26, 22 for information. I just I read through that and I'm not too sure what they're saying. I don't think we're getting through to them on this. I don't know what everybody else thinks. Do we have the letter up here? Yeah, we do. Yeah.
I think we should just receive it for information and move on.
Okay.
Well, they're asking for it.
But there's an issue though.
I think we need to.
You realize there's an issue here. They think
I-
that it's private parking and.
If I may, I think they want a clear response to the
Yeah.
request of, the request is to put up residential only parking signs. I met with both David Bellringer and Rob Purdy on site months ago, and this came up, and I explained to them why we wouldn't do that. And then the formal request came through to mayor and council, which is a fair enough thing to do, and we haven't provided a formal response to them. So their request is to put up residential use only parking in the same way that they see that on Dorman Road. However, it was explained to them that the reduction of the amount of parking available or that they had to provide on their site was reduced in part due to their argument and perspective that they would have reduced parking requirements. But now they're saying that their residents would benefit or appreciate the addition of this parking being designated as residential only. However,
But we made it quite clear that these would be public parking spots.
that's right. That was clear in the beginning, and I told them that several months ago, and but now they're requesting for the change.
So I don't know how everybody feels about this and all.
Well, my feeling is maybe we could be clear if we were, a motion could be something like that council requests the mayor to write to DK Harris Properties indicating that the parking on Seniors Lane is for public use, something like that.
I think we should put in 3-hour parking signs on there like we've got down Trunk Road or along Dorman Road.
Yeah, that's public parking.
Well,
Yeah.
but that limits it.
And that's what the
No, I know.
and that's what the some of the thinking was internally, that there would be a 2 or 3 hour parking limit placed there. But that hasn't been followed up there.
Yeah, Rob, and then more.
Yeah, and I just think, if a developer comes to us with parking relaxations, I mean, I've been big supporter of that. But it's also their responsibility to make sure that if they're renting out, they're keeping track of how many people are using cars. And I know that they're filled up already with rental suites, and they know they only have this many spots. That's how many spots they're gonna have to rent out. That's how many renters as far as they can have there, and not go over top of that and then expect to take parking that was not originally.
Well, they've got parking on the far side, you know, in that overflow parking lot. I mean, and the agreement was that they would have X number of parking spots, and there's not very many, 6 or 8. And those would be public parking spots. And now they're trying to say they want it to be resident only. I go, well, no, that wasn't the deal.
Is it 6 in front? Because I can't count 6 in that.
Right?
I'm looking at.
There was further correspondence from Lisa on October the 7th. It was sent to mayor and council.
Yeah.
Everyone has.
Yep.
Yeah, that's because it's August 26th stuff didn't appear. And the original letter didn't appear.
That's the one, October the 17th, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Can we just receive the letter and leave it at that? And sounds like staff's already talking with them and has.
No, they've told staff and told them they can't have it, and then they send another letter back saying we want it. So you know.
For easy and for clarity for them, I think, you know, we could simply have council vote on this as a motion and then direct me to respond with that.
Vote on it as a motion.
That the parking spaces along Seniors Lane in front of the DK Harris property be designated as public parking, and that staff be requested to convey this information to the DK Harris property owners. Something like that.
Yeah, and for greater clarity, public parking and not restricted to residents only.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I knew that.
So maybe we should just thinking out loud again with, I hate motion on the fly. That council supports staff's decision that the parking is public parking, not residents only parking on Seniors Lane.
Well, and to be clear, it wasn't staff, it was part of the original development agreement.
It's the DVP that council back.
Okay.
Permitted.
All right, so we'll go with Stu Ellis.
Goes right back to the contract, yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't the solution be to put in place signage, appropriate signage that we.
Well, that's what we told them to do, and they said, no, they want resident only.
No, they're not.
No, we'll be putting in like 3 hour parking or.
Yeah, staff will do that. Yeah, okay. This is just for the clarity.
What do we have for a motion there? Sophie?
So I still have the first part. The council received the correspondence from DK Harris Properties dated August 26,
And confirm.
information, and that the parking spaces on Senior Road in front of DK Harris property be designated as public parking and not restricted to resident only. And that's.
Can you put and confirm? Council confirms. After. Right at the beginning of that.
Council confirms that.
Because we're confirming what the staff said.
Or what the agreement are.
And should the correspondence also include this October 7th?
Yes.
One that we're looking at now? So the 2 pieces of correspondence, please.
Well, that's all their correspondence, not ours.
Well, this just tells them that we've received both. Because we did get them both.
Well, the October 7th one is closing the August 27th.
It was an additional correspondence. I think it makes sense to mention both pieces.
It came to us separately by email. Yeah.
How we got it in onto.
Could I ask Liam something, Matt?
Sure, that's fine.
Leah, may I ask, if this was sitting in front of me in a different position here, not as councillors. If we go back to the original documentation, the agreements between us and DK Harris, taking everything else aside, for clarity, is a specific designation for this area? Is this area specifically referred to? Is the clarity given in the original document?
Well,
Yes, there is. And it was very clear that parking would be designated for public access.
Yeah.
Okay.
As part of the DVP, the application was required to construct improvements along Seniors Lane, including provision of 6 off-site parking spaces. The condition states management of the off-site parking spaces to be conducted by the Bowen Island municipality. There was no agreement or discussion to designate these spaces a resident only during the DVP application process. The applicant stated that there would not be a demand for parking spaces from their tenants based on experiences managing rental units in Village Square, and that they could make additional parking available in the overflow parking in Village Square. So there was never an intent to have that as residential. So, okay, I'm sorry, Sophie, but we've changed this so many times. One more time and then we'll do it.
So that council received the correspondence from DK Harris Properties dated August 26, 2022 and October 7th, 2022 for information. And that council confirms that the parking spaces along Senior Road in front of DK Harris property, or we could say 510 Bowen Island.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Island Trunk Road are to be designated as public parking and not restricted to resident only, and that signage be installed in 3-hour parking at these spaces.
Perfect. I'll move that. Second to David. Okay. Any further discussion on that?
And we say signage be installed by the municipality.
That will be anyway.
Oh, maybe, yeah. That's right.
This is about clarity. Yeah.
Sure.
Could save that for another municipality.
Can I just say, I think we should leave it to staff whether 3-hour, 2-hour or 1 hour.
Sure.
Because it is sort of close to the shopping center, and like staff, it's sort of an operation thing to manage that. Yeah. So can you just
Okay,
leave
take
it?
the time out of there.
Yeah, so it's all signage.
Okay. Got it. All in favor? Or yeah, question. All in favor? Aye. Okay, good. Okay, we're going to move on to reports of committees, Cal and commissions, minutes of the emergency program executive committee meeting held July 22nd, 2022. Is there anybody to speak to that, Liam?
I'm not sure if Christy, I don't see her there and I don't see her online. So I can speak to it, not perhaps in the level of detail that she would have, but so it's a fairly I think we brought this forward at another meeting, and I can't remember why it's come back.
There was a recommendation from the EPEC that the Emergency Program Executive Committee recommend that council approve the 2021 Extreme Heat Initial Response Guide as presented at the July 22nd, 2022 EPEC meeting.
So why didn't we do that?
It's coming to us now.
It's there now.
But I have a question.
Go ahead.
I remembered this too from the Emergency Program Executive Committee meeting. And I looked at the minutes and because I was going, wait a minute, didn't we have something about the new Emergency Operations Center fire hall in there? Anyway, there are edits in the action items in the minutes linked to there that have not taken place. So it doesn't, for example, the
we had a 5.
The response guide is supposed to say for internal use on the cover, the
Right.
staff phone numbers are supposed to come out, a few things like that. So I'd be prepared to move the agenda move the motion if it said,
Receive.
with, incorporating the edits in the minutes from, whatever, the October, July 22nd.
Yeah.
Emergency Program Executive Committee meeting.
Great. Great. I recall that now to Sue Ellen,
Yeah.
Councillor Fast. Thank you.
Action items get buried up.
Yeah, and because there are other cooling center, like the EOC could become a cooling center.
Yeah, it just says it's possible, it's qualified, but to let people 5 years from now know that it could be cool.
Yeah.
If needed. So there was just a few little edits there, and pages 4 and 5 of those minutes. And so I moved that.
Okay, what are we moving?
I moved that council approve the 2021 Extreme Heat Initial Response Guide as included in the October 11th, 2022 regular council agenda, including or
Subject to the changes.
subject to the changes listed
Yeah.
in the Emergency Program Executive Committee meeting draft minutes, July 22, 2022.
Being incorporated.
Being incorporated, something like that.
July 2020, July, sorry, what was it?
July 22, 2022.
2022.
It's the July, it's the other, it's there in our agenda packet. I didn't trace the
Did you get that?
the adjustment that's in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now-
very good catch, Councillor Fast. And in those minutes, there are 3 or 4 edits that are easy to
Yeah,
Incorporate.
Yeah.
it's just little fine tunings. Yeah,
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. I will move that.
I did already.
It's already done. Did we vote?
We seconded.
Yeah, second.
Okay,
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
Unanimous.
Other folks, didn't we have a 9.2 that we were going to?
I was going to speak to that under the metro.
Oh, okay. You can do that.
Yeah. Okay, 10.2 is the minutes of the Housing Advisory Committee meeting. The council received the Housing Advisory Committee's cluster zoning guidelines as indicated in the October 11th regular council agenda. The council referred to the cluster zoning guidelines to a future committee of the whole. I don't know if anybody's had a look at those. They're really extensive. I think it's a good idea, but I think it's going to be extraordinarily labor intensive to do. It's not just something we can, I'll ask Daniel Martin what he thinks about that. I mean, all we're doing now is receiving
Yeah, well,
And referring
and referring.
to future committee of the whole.
Yeah. Just kind of out of our hands. Because it's going to be quite extensive. I think the principle is good. But I think it's gonna need quite a bit of discussion.
I think that was the intent in referring it to a future committee of the whole. The housing committee's worked on, a subcommittee of the housing committee has worked on these proposed guidelines for months.
Oh, they have?
Yeah.
So there is a whole staff.
Yeah. So the expectation was.
Well, it's not that doesn't give you very much.
This is going to land on a council's table, and council is not going to say, oh, yes, it's actually going to have to be worked through.
Yeah.
In some months. And the expectation too was that it would be likely brought to the attention of the incoming council rather than this one. This is simply to receive and move it forward.
I can make a recommendation.
well, just a second, is it actually guidelines or is it a report?
It's,
To me, it's talking about the benefits of cluster zoning and giving examples from other communities.
Yeah.
Or is this thing called cluster zoning in Bone Island, which is the 4th page?
Yeah.
Is that?
But it's just a high level, it's a high level, isn't it? I mean, you can't get into specifics.
But is that the guideline?
Yeah, those are the guidelines.
Okay, so we should be putting guidelines in there.
Okay, so the way the recommendation is written is the council received the housing advisory committee cluster zoning guidelines as included in the October 11, 2022 regular council agenda, and council referred the cluster zoning guidelines to a future committee of the whole. All of that.
So can we add one word in?
Yes.
Report and cluster zoning guidelines. Sure, because when you look at this,
Okay.
there's nothing in here that for the report, including the cluster zoning guidelines.
Okay, report and the cluster zoning guidelines. That's okay. That's for the amendment. Everybody's okay with that. Any further discussion? Anything else? Yeah.
Just that I'm in favor of this. I think it refers to gentle density. And it's an opportunity for housing diversity. And I heard this talked about in the community economic development plan as a way to do all the good things that the community and economic development plan wanted to do. And I think if done carefully, it can be good for nature too. So I'm in favor.
Yeah, I think it's extraordinarily complicated. Extraordinarily complicated. Maureen, did you want to say something?
Yep.
Okay. I'll ask a question on the paper. Okay, thank you. That's unanimous. Move on to new business. So 11.1 is the 2022 Union of BC Municipalities Conference update. Liam, do you want to say something about that, or is that just for receiving for?
Just a very quick summary for the public's benefit, just that it was a very successful UBCM convention. We had 4 minister meetings, 3 meetings with council and provincial staff and provincial agency staff, and 2 meetings with BIM's staff and provincial staff. And I think all the meetings were very productive, and I think we left a good mark with all of those that we met with, and I look forward to some positive results from those meetings. So,
that's true. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and then this essentially the final highlight minutes will be posted to the website.
Do we need to receive it?
So it's on the website. Did it get into the undercurrent or not?
I'm not sure if it went to the undercurrent.
Well, the update goes in the undercurrent, wasn't it? A little article.
Yeah, it's in the website. I just wondered.
You could ask Sophie, she does this one.
Yeah.
It's not, the full text of it was not posted.
Okay.
It's not published.
Yeah, there's too much, eh?
It's a full page, but it's on the website and it went out in our e-newsletter and so.
Okay, that's good.
Also read it.
Great work, yeah. Right through it was inspiring. Okay, we'll move on to the CAO update. Liam.
Okay, I have 3 things I wanted to talk about. One, first is I wanted to share the numerous compliments that I've been receiving on behalf of staff's work, mostly, I believe, Hope, Dallas, and Sophie and Signa's work on the election pamphlet that's gone out. I understand it was done in the past, but I wasn't here, and I remember receiving it and seeing it and being very impressed. I've never received something like that in any community that I lived in before, and I think it does a great service to the community. And I've been getting tons of positive feedback about that, and just in how the administrative side of the election has been rolling out so far. We had a very successful advanced voting day with a big turnout, and so we hope for an even bigger turnout this coming weekend. So yeah, I just wanted to make that shout out to staff and the great work that they've been doing. And then I did also want to, we had Bonnie here, and I thank you, Mayor, and for your recognition of her last meeting with us. And yeah, I just wanted to say publicly that we're all going to miss her. She's been with us for what's about 11 years, and she's done a tremendous job at managing 3 different challenging portfolios with bylaw, environment, and parks planning. And she essentially created the environment department. And so it's going to be very challenging to find somebody to be able to do the great work that Bonnie did. And but we wish her well in her adventures with the city of Vancouver. And I'll be sure to give the CAO there some grief the next time I see him for stealing her. But it wasn't North Vancouver, the usual culprit that takes our staff away from us.
Over the bridge.
Yeah. But it did lead, this does lead into my third topic. I just wanted to touch on very briefly, just the challenges of recruitment here with Bowen that you know so well, and Bonnie's departure just highlights that. And so we're going to be working hard to find somebody with the professional qualifications like Bonnie had, or perhaps even a professional designation. And we're hoping to get that posted soon, but we had to effectively recreate her posting from scratch. So, and that's it for my update.
All right, thank you very much, Liam. And then we'll go to the update to council on Metro Vancouver business. Metro Vancouver Director David Hawking. David.
Thank you, Gary. 2 meetings last week with the Electoral Area A Committee and with the Indigenous Relations Committee. And basically, the meetings right now are about budget. And so each committee goes through their particular chunk of the budget, but there's also a presentation on Metro Vancouver's overall budget. So I'll just give you a couple of updates on that. First, Metro Vancouver's overall budget. And now there's sort of three chunks of Metro Vancouver budgets. The two giant ones are water and liquid waste, and we don't get those. The one that we do is the GBRD, the rest, which includes parks, environment, and climate change, and planning, and so on, and Indigenous relations. A bit about the overall budget. Look, it's interesting that the expectation was for a 10.1% increase this year, and staff brought that down to 4.5%. Now that's quite astonishing. Some of it is delaying some of the giant projects, and they're still, coming down the road.
It's good, good.
But I'm not sure how that's still draft, of course, because it now goes to the board meeting in a week or so. I'm thinking that actually it might get pushed up so that you're pulling down some of the increases in the future. And we don't have to deal with that part. The part that we deal with, the GBRD budget, it will go up from a average household impact, $6, $7, from $76 to $83 is what. Now that's of course still draft, but that. Now the Electoral Aid Committee and Indigenous Relations are just slivers compared to everything else. And the Electoral Area is continuing along at a below inflation level. Indigenous Relations, though, is going up 21% in the first year, and then
it starts to level out.
Then much smaller after that. And the reason for that is that the whole focus on reconciliation is an enormous effort and relationship building with all the First Nations in several ways, but also with the projects and projects that bump into their areas and so on. And so there's like the review of the work that they do, the numbers are astonishing. There's the work is doubled. And so there's some additional staff, so that's why that's increased. So that's partly reflected then in that $7 for the GBRD, because although a tiny sliver of the overall budget, it is a chunk of the GBRD. I think that's it for my report. There's more coming. Climate action this Friday, and then the board, I think, is next week.
Okay, thank you, David. And update to council on Islands Trust business. Islands Trust municipal trustees Fast and Kale. Go ahead.
I'll take the turn for now. I just wanted to report that in our agenda at 12.2, there's a report from the Islands Trust Conservancy. We've since had another meeting. We only have a few of those every year, and we're now up to what is it? 113. Yes, properties protected over 16 islands, and of course 5 of them are on Bowen. And that's the Islands Trust. You described Metro Vancouver as 2 arms that we don't participate in, and one that we do. Well, with Islands Trust, we have one big arm that we don't participate in, and that's island planning, that residents on other islands complain about. And then we have the Island Trust Conservancy that I just talked about. And that is not a part of that governance review. It was excluded from that, just some confusion that's out there. And we participate in what I think of as the Federation of Islands Trust Council. And then some admin with both of those. So like Metro Vancouver, we just participate in a few in those two parts of Islands Trust. And I have more information in the article, that most recent candidates thing that's in the undercurrent. If anybody wants more info, they can contact me about that. But otherwise, I have a couple more meetings this week, including financial planning tomorrow. And then, of course, the elections are on the 15th, and there'll be a different trust council again.
When do they swear in?
It looks like,
Summer.
well, later, because we had to switch some things around. And I believe that it's 17th of November. Yeah, in Victoria. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, thank you, Sue. Michael?
I can't comment a lot because the people I wanted to talk to are all out campaigning.
There you go.
Oh, and not all, it's very interesting to reflect on Suella's comments. Some of them are running for regional districts. So it's going to be it's going to be as council, it's going to be a different lineup. So I'd love to tell you that we've been attending meetings doing it, but nobody wants to talk to you particularly. They're all out wanting to talk to their constituents, which is wholly reasonable, given that they
absolutely.
Well, I have been attending meetings because local trust committees, like a Bowen Island Municipal Council, are trying to wrap up things before the end of term.
Yeah.
I will be tomorrow at Executive Committee and Financial Planning Committee. Thursday, a short Islands Trust Conservancy meeting, and then on the 14th, Friday, a Denman meeting. These are all by Zoom, thank goodness.
Okay, thanks, Sue. And Michael, update to council on Metro Vancouver Regional Parks Committee meetings. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you. And we will be having our last Parks Committee meeting this term tomorrow morning. And like David, we have the budget again on deck to be reviewed, and still showing those remarkable totals for the acquisition of lands on Bowen Island. So I will potentially have something to report at a subsequent meeting. But what I wanted to speak to is the late addition to our agenda, item 9.2, which is correspondence from Jeff Fitzpatrick at the Metro Vancouver. He's in charge of, oh God, I forget what his title is these days. Division Manager, Regional Parks Design and Development. And this correspondence will be added to the municipal agenda, so members of the public who are interested can take a read. And Jeff is focusing on the Davies Orchard revitalization and Dorman Point. So it's not specifically on the part at Cape Roger Curtis. And he gives a little bit of background and explains that the work in Davies Orchard was planned to begin in May 2022, but was delayed due to challenges with procurement and contractor availability. But it is now proceeding in this fall. And to some extent, I'm just grateful that we did not proceed on schedule, because I cannot imagine what the Cove would have looked like if we had one more. That would be real in the top. Yeah. And then the second point that he addressed is Dorman Point, and the development of the trail access and amenities are scheduled to begin in late fall 2022 and to be complete by next summer. The improvements are those that we expected. The beach access stairs, the viewpoints, the shelter and seating area, habitat enhancement and fencing to protect the ecologically sensitive areas. What's nice is that they heard the message. They're looking into the feasibility of washroom facilities for the site, which was requested by BIN. And I'm assuming they also, Daniel, have clarity on the assembly use at this point, do they?
Yes, I've discussed it with them informally, and that a formal letter will be coming out. Sent that formal letter, but we haven't had that initial.
Excellent. That may prompt washrooms as well. Just regular updates will be provided by Metro, and it took a little while to get this regular update, so I hope that it will be more regular in the future.
Maureen, was there any about the mistake about what they put into the press about what's happening out at Roger Curtis about how we were in negotiations, which was a mistake? That mistake gets brought to light at all?
It's not mentioned in this correspondence.
No.
Jeff, this was specifically for Davies Orchard and Durham Point. As to how the mistake was made.
Well, it was just a correction. I don't know.
Oh, it was correct.
It was
On the website, that's all.
It was corrected on the, website for the update, the Metro Vancouver update.
Okay.
It was a different group that produces that, and communications, they would have just read things and, put down their assumption of what it all meant. And when I was there last Friday, I went and talked to the person who wrote it, said, please remove that sentence. He said, okay. When I explained what was wrong. And so it was a misunderstanding on their part. Yeah.
Quite a significant misunderstanding to the population of Bowen.
True.
Yeah.
a member of the Bowen public also reached out and said, what is this? And they heard that it was a mistake a couple of days beforehand. So it was rectified.
So you think the message has got across to the community?
For those who read it in
several ways. Is that it, Maureen?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we're going to do an update to council on Translinks Mayor's Council meeting. Councillor Morse.
So we had our last meeting on September 29th, I think it was, that Thursday. So it's one of the short public meetings, but the Jonathan Cote is not running for re-election. So as outgoing chair, he sort of provided a summary of the activities of the last 4 years, and a lot accomplished. Transport 2050, a new 10-year vision that replaced the previous mayor's 10-year vision, which is now called 10-year priorities. Dealing with COVID and the recovery and the rebuild and getting the money that was got to carry over. So I think that's a public document. It is a public document on their website, but I can send it the mandate review letter. He went on to talk about vision and things he thought going forward. And everybody got numerous thank yous for being a very good chair over the last 8 years, actually. And then the other major document was the submission to the government of Canada on the permanent transit fund. The government announced a very large amount of money in their budget and then went out for public consultation on how that money should be spent. So the key recommendations that we approved were accelerating the delivery of the transit fund. Originally, it's committed for 2026, 27 to 2020. So accelerate that to 2024, 25. So move it forward by 2 years. That was one of them. Support local transportation plans, not just individual projects. there's concern that it's all going to be project to project rather than longer term plans and,
Linked up thinking.
yeah. Permanently double the Canada Community Building Fund, that was formerly the gas tax fund, which they've done for the last 3 years, so that would be nice. And then the other was to, work with Mayor's Council, Province of BC to develop a new funding model for public transit. And then they did go through and answer all the specific questions that were asked for, but I think there was quite a concern that wanting them to look at the full, sort of the overall long-term plans and their funding approach, not keep rolling out applications for specific projects, because a lot of it is, it's the ability to know that you've got these funds so you can do the long-term planning. Because, electric buses, all this stuff costs a lot of money. So that was the major two things. And that was released publicly. I think everybody got. Did everybody not get an email with that in it? I thought it was sent out by the government relations. Okay, I'll send it out. Okay, I think so that was the last meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alison.
Gary, I had a tiny bit there.
Yeah.
Alison mentioned Jonathan Cote. There are a number of mayors who are not running. He's probably the most significant. He's got to know him fairly well over the last while, and he's soft-spoken, extremely thoughtful, very rational. He's really quite terrific, and it's.
No, he isn't.
He's a lovely guy.
Yeah, lovely guy. Such an importance for the region. He was also the chair of the planning committee, the regional planning committee. Yeah, he had a huge role, really big role.
Will be a big loss.
Is he retiring?
He's going to be doing other things in the same area, municipal planning, development of some sort. I don't know what, but he's not retiring.
He's no
Metro. He won't be in Metro.
He won't be in Metro.
Maybe he's a young bug.
Younger than all of us.
Yes.
Put together.
He's a graduate of Westman, in 1990.
So Maureen, 12.1, did you want to say something about iced tea there?
Just that, if you recall, when we met with Prime Minister Cove, he mentioned that he was looking forward to receiving a business plan from the new executive director of ICT, and that any discussion, any recapitalization of ICT would be dependent on the integrity of a business plan. So, as you know, Liam and I have been keeping in touch with Brody and Brody Guy, sorry, other way around, Brody Guy, and the business plan has now been submitted to the ministry, and he was expecting a meeting to follow, probably around about now. So there may be some action on this. I'm not sure what the timeline.
Yeah, he wasn't super positive about it at the time. I didn't think.
Yeah, but he hadn't seen the business plan at that point, so it's all very contingent.
Yeah.
But the key point is that this is moving forward.
That's great. Yeah. All right, thank you. Is that it, Maureen?
Yeah.
Go to question period. Daniel. Who else?
Any questions?
Lots of answers. On that happy note, we will adjourn this meeting and we will eventually go to this close. You want to take a 5-minute break, everybody?
Yeah.
We're actually on schedule, so.
Okay, fine.
They,